in the rain as the clouds go gray. The thunder roars and the earth sings. The season's just beginning. Sunlight it hides as the clouds make way. For the pouring of my blessings, I will not be afraid. I see it now, I understand, I know. So I embrace it, dance. In the rain it's for my seed to grow. For every prayer and every seed I've sown, the Lord of the harvest knows I'm reaping back 100-fold. The land is green, it's green, oh, oh. The land is green, it's green. Can't you see? The harvest is ready, 'cause the Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me. It's green for me. Standing alone can be a heavy load, but my vows I won't be breaking. Though my heart is aching, I got a word and I won't let go. It's your will I'm seeking, so I keep on believing. I see it now, I understand, I know. So I embrace it, dance. Once again it's time for me to grow. For every prayer and every tear I've sown, Lord of the harvest knows I'm reaping joy 100-fold. The land is green, it's green, oh, oh. The land is green, it's green. Can't you see? The harvest is ready, 'cause the Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me. I thought it was over, thought you were done with me, but we're just beginning. Whoa, my life is a journey. I will walk with you, I will go where you want me to. Yes, I will go. Come on. As the clouds go gray, the thunder roars and the earth sings. The season's just beginning. Sunlight it hides as the clouds make way. For the pouring of my blessings, I will not be afraid. I see it now, I understand, I know. So I embrace it, dance. In the rain it's for my seed to grow. For every prayer and every seed I've sown, Lord of the harvest knows I'm reaping back 100-fold. The land is green, it's green, oh, oh. harvest is ready, 'cause the Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me. It's green for me. Standing alone can be a heavy load, but my vows I won't be breaking. Though my heart is aching, I got a word and I won't let go. It's your will I'm seeking, so I keep on believing. I see it now, I understand, I know, so I embrace it, dance. Once again it's time for me to grow. For every prayer and every tear I've sown, Lord of the harvest knows I'm reaping joy 100-fold. The land is green, it's green, oh, oh. The land is green, it's green. Can't you see? The harvest is ready, 'cause the Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me. I thought it was over, thought you were done with me, but we're just beginning. Whoa, my life is a journey. I will walk with you, I will go where you want me to. Yes, I will go. Come on. Clouds go gray, the thunder roars and the earth sings. The season's just beginning. Sunlight it hides as the clouds make way for the pouring of my blessings. I will not be afraid. I see it now, I understand, I know, so I embrace it, dance. In the rain it's for my seed to grow. For every prayer and every seed I've sown, Lord of the harvest knows I'm reaping back 100-fold. The land is green, it's green, oh, oh. The land is green, it's green. Can't you see? The harvest is ready, 'cause the Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me. It's green for me. Standing alone can be a heavy load, but my vows I won't be breaking. Though my heart is aching, I got a word and I won't let go. It's your will I'm seeking, so I keep on believing. I see it now, I understand, I know, so I embrace it, dance. once again it's time for me to grow. For every prayer and every tear I've sown, Lord of the harvest knows I'm reaping joy 100-fold. The land is green, it's green, oh, oh. The land is green, it's green, can't you see? The harvest is ready, 'cause the Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me. I thought it was over, thought you were done with me, but we're just beginning. Whoa, my life is a journey. I will walk with you, I will go where you want me to. Yes, I will go. Come on. As the clouds go gray, the thunder roars and the earth sings. The season's just beginning.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening for all around the world, wherever you are. A sincere apologies for this delay. It's due to logistics, but we are still going to have a wonderful day today, and everything is going to be as planned. And we are not going to take any further than the time that we already scheduled for this meeting. Trust me, you know, with logistics and technical issues, no one do really have a say on that, but we'll see how we go today. We really want to welcome everyone for coming. We can see our Royal Majesty, and thank you so much. We appreciate everyone. The Deputy Mayor of St. John's, we really, really appreciate your presence here. And we have a lot of dignitaries today that we will be introducing as the time goes on. So without taking further more of your time, we're just going to go into the meeting. Today is Nigeria's 62nd independence anniversary. We are here in Canada, where we also appreciate the country where we've worked and journeyed so far in here. and we are also home here in Newfoundland, but we also recognize Nigeria as our home as well. And we are celebrating Nigeria today. So in that honor, we're going to take the national anthem now, and then we'll move straight to the program. The national anthem, please. We have that ready, tech team? National anthem from your hand that you want to sing.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't hearing that. You can see that tech issues are real, but we're going to go through that today, and we're going to have a wonderful, wonderful time. I really appreciate that. And I would like to also introduce the convener of this meeting, my very own husband. It's been so amazing. It's patriotic, and he will be welcoming us today. And I also wanted to welcome my co-host, Tendai Mazarai. She's from Zimbabwe, but she's a lover of Nigerians, so she'll be co-hosting with me today, and we're going to have a wonderful time together. So over to you, Mr. Rotimi Oluwatoyinbo. Thank you. You unmute there? Can you unmute yourself, please? We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much, my darling wife and the sweetest woman on earth. I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor of St. and your highness. Yeah, thank you. I want to welcome everyone to the second and the final day of our program. It's been rewarding and enriching, and we believe that we are going to have a wonderful time today. We really apologize for the delay at the beginning. It was from the end of the moderators. We're all set here. I am speaking from St. John's, Newfoundland, and we always want to recognize first owners of the land. We respectfully acknowledge the land on which we gather as the ancestral homelands of the Botha, whose culture has now been erased forever. We also acknowledge the island of Takmok, the unceded traditional territory of the Botha and the Mi'kmaq. We acknowledge Labrador as the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Innu of the Nitassinan, the Inuit of Nunatsiavut, and the Inuit of Nunatu Kavu. We recognize all First Peoples who are here before us, those who live with us now, and the 7 generations to come. First Peoples we have done, First Peoples have done since time immemorial, which strive to be responsible stewards of land and to respect the cultures, ceremonies, and traditions of all who call it home. As we open our hearts and minds to the past, we commit ourselves to work in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, make a better future for all of us. Incidentally, it was National Truth and Reconciliation Day in Canada yesterday, and today this is the second independence of Nigeria. Happy independence to everyone. I welcome you to a wonderful time where we'll have some speakers handle very sensitive and important topics. We'll also be having poems and a number of things. We hope that you will enjoy yourself and have some value for this meet. And God bless you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for that awesome welcome. And yes, we also had a wonderful time yesterday. The program started yesterday, and it's been so great. We had a lot of speakers, and a lot of things was talked about. Like we had Lady Alba from her Royal Bank of Canada. We have Bimbola Ifidon. And we have also our very own Aderonke from Nova Scotia, is the Nigerian Canadian president in the province of Nova Scotia. And it's been like a roller coaster. We learned a lot of things, being yourself, volunteering, and how we can actually make wherever we are work for us. And in that light, we would continue today. But before we roll into today's program, children are very special piece. And we have two amazing kids today render us with poem. One is by Oyelowo Oluwatoyinbo. Of course, that's my son, yes. And we also have from a family friend, Rachel Abel, and we will go straight to the poem presentation. If we can have Oyelowo now, and Rachel should get ready after. Thank you. Okay, so this is a poem from Ini, and I'm just going to read that. So, and my co-host Tendai will take the second one. And as we read through, I want you, this is from a child, yes, but there are a lot of information from that, and Ini's ready now, is going to do the presentation. Okay. Can you mute yourself, sir?
Jewels we are in the hands of God, so why must we all be the foes of each other? Our home is but one nation which we have loved, and don't we all form it, each one in our brother? Light resists darkness as evil contrasts good, but one must leave where the other has stood. Darkness is not darkness, but the absence of light, so we must be the gleam of life that doth shine bright. What must we do to conquer this mount of challenges that seem so steep? We must strive to keep going, to keep doing the right thing. For on the top of this great mountain, much favor it will bring. Favor of prosperity and favor of grace. Many smiles hope to bring on each Nigerian face. A stand we must take against the catalyst of darkness. Thus abundant gifts are ours and our possess to harness. But we must first shun and shed the enemies of the light we so direly desire. The attitudes, the greed, the hate, and the violence that so widely push us back from where we much aspire. If we but move ahead as people of same passion, we can bring forth light as the absence of darkness and accomplish our dream of Nigeria's greatness.
Wow, awesome. So the virtual round of applause for Mr. or Master Ini Oluwatoyinbo. And this is great. And knowing this is just like you can say this is Nigeria, but it can actually be applicable to wherever you are on the face of the planet. And there are some awesome words in this piece that he has put together. And I believe this words like rings a bell in our heart, making wherever we are home. And if you are a Nigerian in diaspora, do not forget tech support. We'll get through this, okay? That's fine. We're still gonna move forward. So wherever you are, you know that you can always make home, and don't forget home. Thank you so much, Ini, for that awesome presentation. And we'll have the next presenter, Rachel Abel. Thank you.
Happy Nigerian Independence Day. My name is Rachel and I'm part of Girl Sparkles, and today I'm going to be sharing a poem with you on Nigeria. It is called the Giant of Africa, home to hundreds of tribes and languages. The country itself shines like a star, which inhabits thousands of species of animals. The 7th most populated country in the world, with some of the most famous and best landmarks, full of secrets and things yet to be discovered. A light emerging out of the dark. Unity and faith, peace and progress. 1st of October is their independence date. a day to remember freedom and success. Forever and always the first, they know they carry last. All the years of being small have been reversed. Nigeria remains unsurpassed. Thank you for listening to my poem. If you want to hear more poems on countries, I have a book called Passionate Poet, and I've written it in series. So it's on Amazon, and you can go on Amazon and type in Rachel Abel Passionate Poet and the book should come up. Thank you for listening to my poem. Bye.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for that awesome presentation as well. Miss Rachel Abel, we really appreciate this. And 1 second now, please. Okay, so for the bio for Indian Rachel, we're going to get that shortly. We also have that in the presentation. But going forward now, we're just going to dive into the presentation, and okay, so this are our presenters, and we'll have this first presenter today present to us today, and that is Mr. Rotimi Morohunfola. It will be our first presenter today. So I'm going to get the bio for Ini and Rachel later, so we know these children better. But for time, we just want to go in now to the presentation to have the first one. And introducing Mr. Rotimi Morohunfola is the CEO of United Bank for Africa in Mozambique. Mr. Rotimi Morohunfola is an experienced finance specialist who has built a rich career in the financial service industry over the span of 25 years. His experience cut across origination and client coverage, corporate and institutional banking, commercial banking, corporate finance, business development, financial advisory, portfolio management, business strategy formulations, banking operation, and etc. The list is so long. It has a track record of high performance and professionalism across the various international and pan-African financial institutions. It has supported large corporate clients as well as small and medium enterprises, SMEs. It has a passion for business development and financial advisory. He holds 2 MBAs from the prestigious Warwick Business School, Coventry, and the University of Ilorin. He is a fellow of the Institute of Credit Administration of Nigeria and a member of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. Currently, Mr. Rotimi resides in Mozambique, South Africa, where he is the MD and the CEO of UBA Mozambique SA. Mr. Morohunfola will be speaking at the Renaissance Nigeria Network today, and his topic is building a global profile. Please, with warm welcome, help us together welcome Mr. Rotimi Morohunfola as he take on the stage now. You're welcome, sir, and we really appreciate your presence today. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks so very much. This is Oyewo, the conveners of this program. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege. I think I'll first of all start by wishing all the attendees, especially those who are Nigerians, a happy Independence Day celebration. I want to thank Rotimi particularly, obviously with the other persons who have put this together, for the very thoughtful and bold step to start what I call a movement. But in essence itself is a rebirth, which is you're trying to recreate something. And then our country, more than ever before, requires this kind of initiative. And so I thank you so much for the initiative of putting this together. It's a nation that is blessed by God, richly endowed, very, very great in human capital, rich in culture. Obviously, we're not where we need to be, but I know with a lot of initiatives of this sort, we will get a rightful place as a country. I do not know if my presentation can be shared or, okay, it's already there, yes. Right, I do not want to spend time presenting this afternoon, obviously morning in Canada, but if you look at the first slide of the cover page of my slide, you will notice that I have included a couple of countries. I don't know if there's anyone that can make an attempt to guess the flags of each of these countries. Perhaps I should post an award for whoever can. But obviously, I know we know Canada, and of course, the other nations that follow. Australia is there, UAE. What I'm trying to do here is to showcase at least one country in every continent of the world. We are talking about building a global profile. And obviously, again, many of these countries also represent different languages, which is also part of being a global person. But proudly, I have stuck out the Nigerian flag at the center because we need to stick up our finger in the global community and be recognized for who we are. I will go into the thoughts I have this afternoon straight away. As a matter of fact, and by the way, I have a claim to 2 countries on this first slide that you see. I have a claim to Nigeria and obviously in Mozambique now as a resident here. So I speak Portuguese as well. This afternoon, or this morning, sorry, I keep saying this afternoon, I'm going to share a few thoughts on what I've been told, which is building a global profile. I think we should start first of all by asking ourselves, what is a global profile? A global profile, you can say it's a profile that goes beyond borders, goes beyond geography, goes beyond your defined environment, where you locate yourself. And why is this very important? See, we're in a world today that the world has become smaller and smaller with technology, with every single thing that comes across our way. And when you're talking of a global profile, I first will ask that when somebody thinks of you from anywhere or you interact, what is the first thing that comes to their mind when your name comes across? What is the first thing that resonates with people when they hear you as a person or they hear them? The global profile is one that, by every means possible, diminishes the importance of your background. So, where you're located now becomes quite irrelevant. Yes, it's important to know where you are, but it doesn't become the most important thing about you. Regardless of where you're located, regardless of your race, your color, ethnicity, origin, how you are perceived as a person. What do people attribute to you first? So global profile is essentially one that diminishes what I call the importance of background, and it accentuates or elevates your capacity as a person, your capabilities as a person, the competence you carry, and obviously the value you create in every engagement and every place you find yourself. That makes you a global person. Today, like I said earlier, we're in a global world. People have traveled, a lot of Africans, for example, in diaspora. I'm glad to know that we have a large Nigerian population in diaspora, in Canada especially as well. This shows in itself that Nigerians, by who we are quite competitive. Yes, we can be global products. The journey perhaps sometimes is not as smooth because yes, you get into places where you find it difficult to get recognition that is due to you, that you deem fit. Some stigmas again because of the passport you carry, but I believe we can still stand out wherever we are. How do we then ensure that we get to points where skills and talents and intellect that we possess or carry are too important to ignore by the persons we're engaging with? A few thoughts are in my head as I will talk this afternoon. I know one of the things that I just remembered now is that while growing up, we used to talk about, there's a song, I don't know if anyone remembers it. It talks about Ajala travel all over the world. Ajala travel all over the world. Ajala travel all over the world. Da-da-da travel. So we know the song, a few of us may know the song. Yes, traveling all over the world, but having a global profile is different from just knowing the cities around the world. How do you become relevant in the places where you find yourself? How do you become that person that, regardless of where you're located, you can be sought after? So I will start with a few thoughts. Of course, they're not exhaustive, but just some of the points are also a fallout of my personal experience as a person. So I want to first of all say the right kind of education is very important in the journey to building a global profile. Education is the foundation in itself for whatever you want to do. Knowledge, like we say, is power. It gives the foundation for capacity building ultimately. And in fact, in the area of education, I'm going to give Nigerians A+. I can imagine how much of studies a lot of us have done to get to where we are today. We read quite a lot. We are very, very exposed as well. But I want to put a little more emphasis on the quality today, the quality of the education itself. So, as a person, I had my first degree, my second degree, and they were quite good for my local environment in Nigeria. But at some point, I realized and discovered that to get to that next level, I needed some kind of international and quality education that will add a different thing to my CV. So I took a program in one of the prestigious universities in the UK, and friends, brothers and sisters, that singular act has been a very, very fundamental shift in my career. Sometimes I get into conversations or maybe some discussions about opportunity or whatever it is, some reviews. At the moment, the people see that particular institution on my CV, the conversation changes immediately, spontaneously. So I realized that that in itself has helped to shape the perception that people will have of my personality. Sometimes it's not even a formal institution. It could be some certification in itself that you try to get that elevates you from the lot. It could be a vocational thing. Depends on your area of endeavor. But what is the quality of what we carry that we say is the basis of our competitiveness when it comes to education or learning? That's a very important factor we need to look at in building a global profile. The second point I'll discuss here briefly is exposure. Like I said, I mean, we knew about Bajala in the past, travels, yes. But exposure in this case, yes, refers to travels and the places you know, the places you've been to, but the capacity to amass information. How widely do we read? Conferences, attendance of workshops, essentially what content are we able to build in based on the exposure we've had? I tell you frankly that the exposure creates an impression of who you are when you start to speak to somebody. When you find yourself in an audience, what touch points you've had makes a difference in the kind of things you say and the perception people go away with from the interaction with you. And I believe to a large extent, it opens doors as well. So exposure, we cannot underestimate. It is very important. The third item I will speak to is what I call cultural intelligence. It's abbreviated to CQ, cultural intelligence. Simply put, cultural intelligence defines the ability of a person to understand one's own cognitive biases and then juxtapose it with that of other people and adapt. We are in a very in a global world today, and we need to be sensitive to the nuances of various cultures. And if you have a personality that is strongly culturally biased, sometimes there's a limit to your capacity in terms of social interaction, because we find that some of the things you find in places or new environments will be difficult for you to assimilate or adapt to, and then obviously to integrate. And if you cannot integrate, then it becomes a challenge to actually say, yes, you can be acceptable in that community. I will say for a fact, I mean, I live in Africa, and I've been across Africa quite well. I can boast of knowing at least 40 African countries well enough, Anglophone countries, Francophone countries, and the Lusophone, like Mozambique that I'm in now. But you will realize that in spite of being Africa, the cultures are very different as well. You go to some places, what is good there becomes like almost a taboo somewhere else. So the ability to have this intelligence and understand the variances and variation between cultures becomes very important in adaptability and obviously the capacity to integrate. Today I'm in Mozambique, and one of the things that shocked me was when I came in here, I went for a meeting of chief executives of banks, financial institutions for the first time, and I did not see one Black person of 20 people. All are white colored. So I struggled with that for quite a while. And I realized that it was a place that culturally was so different that to be able to compete, there are certain things that you need to learn and unlearn. So for example, here, even as close as South Africa is to Mozambique, you find South Africans sometimes struggle being in executive positions because it's just culturally different as a location. So being culturally intelligent helps a lot in building the global profile. The next point I want to mention here is having the kind of mindset that we have as people. We're in a world and we're in an age today where there are a lot of doers, there are a lot of people that can do things, execute tasks, but the world is looking for solution providers. Solution providers. Sorry, my slide has not shown the next, it should be showing the third slide by now. If you can help me, the moderator, to move it to the third slide. I'm actually speaking to the points around how to build a global profile. If you can get there quickly. The third slide. Okay, correct, sorry, I guess I mixed it up. So developing a productive mind essentially speaks to being a creative person. The world seeks value across all fields. Creativity plays a very big role in elevating one's profile. So ability to actually be that person who does not require instructions for everything or just executing tasks, but can be the person that provides the solutions or the initiatives emanate from you, stands you out as a person. And you can imagine that where people are looking for solutions, sometimes, and many times indeed, the color, the background becomes less relevant. Yes, they may struggle a while, but ultimately, that gift will showcase you. Next point I will speak to is network. Network, we cannot overemphasize it. I think it was yesterday that we were having the session and one of the speakers, if I recall, I think Sheilagh at Siba, also Abba, spoke about network. Look, the quality and reach of the people around you that you know does a lot in terms of determining your profile as a person. If you seek an international profile, you need to develop it, whether it's slowly, but ultimately just ensure that you keep at it to the point that you surround yourself with people that can help you get to the next level, and next level. I will make an example again and using my personal experience. So I've been in banking for 25 or 26 years now. Obviously started as a banker in Nigeria with a local bank. After that, I realized that, okay, I needed to move to the next level. I joined a regional bank. So rather than just knowing people in Nigeria, I started knowing people across Africa. After that, at some point, I got an opportunity again. I took an international job, which opened me up to a whole lot more. And as a matter of fact, I will say this, I honestly took steps that were difficult and even my family wondered what I was doing at that time. I took pay cuts. To take those jobs. People asked why I was moving from being a celebrated guy in some organizations to just go get lost in some global companies. What I was looking for at that time was the environment, the platform I desired. To build skills and very much more importantly, to build a people network. Frankly speaking, today, it is quite difficult for me to not find a contact of person I know in most countries of the world. And that's by virtue of the kind of institutions I've had to work with, the global nature of these institutions, and the network I've built with those individuals over the years. Sometimes I get calls from interesting places of the world that I've not even been to, asking if I could provide an intervention or introduce somebody to something. And that gladdens my heart, because I knew if I had remained where I was a long time ago as a local chief somewhere in an institution, I perhaps wouldn't have had that kind of network today and that profile. So I want to say sometimes, yes, you take some hard decisions, but you ultimately look at the end and the goals that you ultimately want to achieve. I'm glad again that, of course, today the environment has changed significantly. Even with social media, the world is a global village. Without traveling out of Canada or out of Nigeria, you can't build a global network. Not even necessarily joining institutions. You can have content that people will associate with, and then your profile starts to expand beyond even your own borders. So we should take advantage of every opportunity we have to build the right network, because it helps. It does help indeed. I'll speak to visibility quickly. It's also close to network, but it's about where are you seen? Where are you known? In what circle are you visible? So whether it's the physical circle or it's a virtual circle, we need to find ourselves in places where the right kind of people who can make recommendations about the next opportunity or the other can actually find you or locate you and identify you. Also identify with your cause, identify with what you believe in, and ultimately you find that your profile is going beyond just that local enclave you are in to something that is much more widespread. For the sake of our time, I will not speak for too long. I think the last point I want to speak to is actually about excellence now. Look, we need to be excellent in everything we do. There's no better way to put it. That word in itself succinctly explains what being outstanding is. Seeking to be the best that we can be in any field of endeavor, to compete with the best, benchmarking ourselves with the best, regardless of area. Today we're in a world where competitiveness is increasing daily. Ability to measure to global standards may be costly, but it ultimately pays off. It could be in the area of education, like I spoke to earlier about choice of schools. How can you ensure that you're perceived as excellent when it comes to academics based on either what you have as a degree or the kind of profile of institutions you've attended to, or you've attended, I mean. One has to consciously decide not to have a local reach and do things that will be internationally acceptable anywhere. You know, an area that interests me, and I've actually been doing a few studies around that lately, is the Nigerian musicians of today. You find that young, talented musicians no longer contained by the borders of Nigeria or Africa, wherever they are today collaborating with international stars that, in fact, I'm sure in their own wildest dream, they perhaps wouldn't have thought of such in the past. But because, to a large extent, they spend money on the quality of video, on the kind of environment where the films are shot, and also on the quality of production. Today, the global space is available to them. People want to consume what is world-class, regardless sometimes of where it's coming from. I have a friend, and I will mention this very quickly. He left banking a couple of years back, and he started to go into food production. So processed agricultural proceeds, I mean, cashew especially. I guess because of his background, he realized that, yes, selling locally, everybody's doing that. How can I stand out? This guy traveled to several parts of the world, sought to understand the kind of certifications that were required to export, the kind of approvals, the kind of, the criteria essentially for imports to be allowed into that country, especially for food items. I mean, when he told me what he was doing, I said, okay, young man, please don't spend your retirement savings, because he left banking on all of this. But friends, ladies and gentlemen, today, the guy exports to parts of the world, including the US, where several other producers have not dared to in many years. What was the difference? Decided to go global. Decided to say, okay, yes, I cannot limit myself in this environment. I must expose myself. So today, as an exporter, as a producer in Nigeria, he has an international profile by seeking excellence, by looking for the best, by looking to compete with the best, by benchmarking with whatever is acceptable, world-class, best standards. For some younger folks, technology is an area that today also helps you in terms of competitiveness and the excellence that you can build across your different profiles and backgrounds. We're in an age where technology cannot be ignored. So in building that profile, where does technology have to play in enhancing your capability and to be excellent ultimately? Language skills also come handy. You know, unfortunately for a lot of us that have a background in Nigeria, we're taught English and perhaps just learned French up to maybe the third grade in secondary school. But you find that many times today, where there are international opportunities, look at your language skills. In fact, I can make a joke about myself. I landed in Mozambique without knowing one word of Portuguese, one word. And today, when I go out for meetings and I speak, people ask me, how long have you been here? When I tell them how short it has been, they wonder how I've been able to assimilate and start to communicate reasonably fluently in Portuguese. It was hard, it was a decision. It was hard, but it was a decision I had to make. Such that, yes, I'm the only Black man here at my level, but the color need to be subdued if I can compete in language. So essentially, it's about seeking to be the best in anything, regardless of what it requires, just being competitive in that way to make sure you are outstanding, stand away from the lot. What will make them choose a Rotimi, a Kende, or a John, or a Jonas out of the lot, standing out. I will end with a particular quote that I love so much. It's in Proverbs 22:29, and it says, do you see a man diligent in his work? He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men. Kings is plural, so it means many communities, not just one. Many communities, many kingdoms are involved. So it means really, we even have a platform that has already been given to us by God to not be local champions alone, but being globally acceptable, having a profile that is sought out for across countries. Diligence, being excellent, being outstanding, you'll be sought out for. You'll be sought after anywhere, everywhere. You will stand on your own. It may take time, but that is what it means to have an international profile. Matthew 5:14 says, a city set on a hill cannot be hid. You cannot be hid. So go showcase what God has blessed you with. Stand out, be exceptional. That is what an international profile refers to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rotimi. I'm sure we all took some wonderful words from there. I know I'm feeling energized to be part of the global community now and go and, conquer the world. And a few points that I took from here that I think are important to note. I especially like the quote where he said your global profile diminishes your local background, right? Because in the world we are, the global village is becoming smaller and smaller. And for you to have a global profile, you'll be able to stand out, and be able to stand with the rest of the world. And I really like how you spoke about cultural intelligence as well, because you're right, as people travel, people go into different places, you meet different people of different cultures, and you need to be able to relate with them on that cultural level as well. So that's really important. I don't know about you, Mrs. Dorotolu, if there's anything you took from there, anything you particularly liked from that?
Oh my God, that's a lot that has been said, and I was just trying to keep up with your pace, sir. Like, I was just making a lot of note, and it talked about language, like being excellent, even goes to encouraging or imbibing the language of wherever you're located. That is amazing. Like, how do you know that language can be part of, trying to acquire excellence? Like, this is something that I also picked from this. And he also talked about the value you carry. The value you carry is also something that defines who you are. And I'll just leave it at that. I would also want people at the audience to, like, in just 1 minute, because these are like, when you keep emphasizing, right words, somehow they have a way, to stick somewhere in your mind, in your brain, and then we can, keep on like looking into that. So I will just leave this open to the audience, like maybe 2 people. If you want to talk about something that jumped out to you from what Mr. Rotimi just presented, we can have 2 people, just 2 people quickly, and then we have the Deputy Mayor present. Oh,
I'm sorry, if I could quickly jump in on that.
yeah.
I hear that our Deputy Mayor is coming up next.
Oh,
So
okay.
just, yes. So I'd just like to give a quick introduction to our Deputy Mayor of St. John's. That's the city we're in. That's the city that's hosting this. Big welcome to you, Ms. Sheilagh O'Leary. We're so glad to have you here. And I know that you just want to go right in and go with your presentation. So we welcome you.
Okay. Do we have the Deputy Mayor coming now? We have a bio up just for you to see, but because of time, we will not be able to go into that now, but you're welcome, ma'am. Over to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, beautiful. I think it's my earphones. My apologies. I'll take those off. Well, thank you so much. First of all, I want to say, Rotimi, a beautiful, beautiful presentation. A lot of food for thought there, certainly. And I just want to say, thank you to all the distinguished guests here today. Happy Independence Day. It's my honor to be here as Deputy Mayor for the City of St. John's, to be amongst this community of guests, to learn and to educate myself and others about your culture and the history. The City of St. John's celebrates your unique identity and aims to support those who choose to come to Canada, to Newfoundland and Labrador, and to, of course, the City of St. John's. And one of our strategic priorities at the City of St. John's is to be a connected city, where people feel connected, have a sense of belonging, and are actively engaged in community life. And in St. John's, we are very excited about our growing multicultural community. I myself come from an Irish Indigenous background, and we have all kinds of interesting interconnectedness that is continuing to grow. And connecting with and embracing different cultures helps us to not only understand one another, but also strengthens our city by bringing new perspectives and new ideas and new experiences, and creates opportunities with such huge potential. So while the people of the City of St. John's have told us through our surveys and our engagement process that the quality of life here is excellent, and they are generally satisfied with the services and programs that a municipality can offer, we are very aware that newcomers face significant hurdles. So through our local immigration partnership, our Inclusion Advisory Committee, and other working groups and partnerships, our staff collaborate with community on ways that we can continue to improve this experience. We have also recently launched an anti-racism working group in the city of St. John's, chaired by Dr. Sulawan Giwa. And the reality for St. John's is that we are a province that has an aging population and a labor force. And we are seeing labor demands in several areas, from healthcare to new and growing technology sectors and the hospitality industry. Our communities want and need people who bring a range of insights, perspectives, experiences to support diversity in our society and in our economy. So diversity is important to not only sustaining the labor force, but sparking innovation. And as Rotimi spoke to, the technological era is something we cannot ignore. Dr. Tony Fang, noted researcher at Memorial University of Newfoundland and Labrador, has been providing insight about immigration and the economy. And he notes that significant demographic deficits will be assisted through increasing immigration to our communities. And Atlantic Provinces Economic Council state that across Atlantic Canada, we are welcoming more and more visible minorities. So by 2040, closer to 20% of our population will be visible minorities, as opposed to just 4% just a few years ago. So you can see we are growing. From students to employees to business entrepreneurs, from children to parents to grandparents, hundreds of people from countries all over the world are coming here to make St. John's their home. And our challenge is to deliver on that promise of hospitality and a safe landing for those who make the journey to St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Nigerians contribute positively to cultural heritage and by encouraging, facilitating, and fostering socioeconomic development. So It's Greener Than Ever is, to me, a beautiful summation of these potential opportunities for our Nigerian community to thrive and have meaningful lives in our city and province. And it aptly reflects our city's commitment as well to sustainability and prospects that are availing in our new green economy in this province. So I would like to sum it up now by saying I wish you great success. Happy Independence Day. All the best with your global summit. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of wonderful information exchanged. Synergizing Nigeria's potential for greatness is just something that the City of St. John's would like to support. And I thank you for your kind invitation. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our Deputy Mayor for that. We really do appreciate having you here. And thank you so much. So just a few housekeeping items before we continue on with our program. We would like to recognize the representatives of the Nigerian Association of Newfoundland and Labrador. We do have a few people here joining us today, and we would like to give you a warm welcome to our program today. So that will be Mrs. Pearl Oga, Dr. Akinlola Alifiatayo. We welcome you so much and thank you for gracing us today. And we will also like to give an honorable mention to the President of the Nigerian of London and Area Association of the Nigerian Association there too. Thank you so much for joining us. And as mentioned earlier, just a few points on our earlier speakers for the poems. So Oyelowo Toimbo is currently doing grade 7 at First Baptist Academy in Mount Pearl here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And Rachel is a 14-year-old student at Rugby High School in the United Kingdom. And also just a brief note to our speakers, please note that the time limit is 15 minutes as we are running out of time. So we'd just like to give you a reminder of that. And lastly, in our housekeeping items, we just want to remind you that you can share your thoughts in Slido. I know our technical team is going to be putting up the link. You can go ahead and put in any questions you may have there for any of the speakers that we may have. And anything else you'd like to share, comment, just put your thoughts in there. So over to Mrs. Drotolua to introduce our next speaker for us.
Thank you so much, Tendai, and that's okay. Drotolua is also fine. And we will be introducing our next speaker, and this is Professor Oyelowo. Is the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Oyo State, Nigeria. Is an experienced professor with a demonstrated history of working in the higher education history, legal service and consultancy industry, constitutional law, administrative law, government, and the legal practice sector. Are the areas of his lawyering and legal service delivery skills. He has proven capacity and capability in writing, editing, lecturing, legal advocacy, and public speaking. He possesses a strong educational and professional background. He has, having graduated from Nigerian Law School and admitted to both the Nigerian Bar and the State Bar of California. He is a senior advocate of Nigeria, SAN. Professor Oyelowo, armed with rich international experience, is an integral part of the dynamic and sterling transformation to governance currently going on in Oyo State under its principal governor, Sheilagh. He deals with the issue of law and order in nation building. So he will be speaking to us today about law and order while building a nation. We really appreciate your presence here, sir, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy Independence Day to everyone. I'll be speaking on the topic law and reform in transformative governance. A bit of background, I think apart from what has been said about me, I also can claim to be a Nigerian who had had the experience of living abroad. I was actually born in Ghana, and that has informed my decision to continue to live in Nigeria, because one day in 1969 or 70 thereabout, we were woken up that we aliens have been asked to go back home. And without any further ado, we were packed into a vehicle and landed in Ogbomoso, my hometown, and so disruptive. And I made up my mind after that I would not live in anybody's country again. Nobody should have the right to ask me to leave his country, since I have a country where God has placed me. And I remember when I lived in the US, I was tempted to stay after sitting in the bar and everything. Thankfully, I had a very visionary mentor in the person of Professor Otto Rosette of UCLA, who told me, Oye, for as long as you live in this country, you may not be able to influence and change the things you want to change in Nigeria. And that informed my having to go back after having worked in the law firm of Archer, Kozam, Hewitt, Grimes, and Manning in Los Angeles. It's been challenging. I'm saying this because I want to challenge all you who are living abroad in comfort and seeing the turmoil and the civilness of this nation and think you cannot make a change. I tell you that you can. It's good to contribute from afar, but the taste of the pudding is in the eating. I also say this because people are watching, people recognize. I remember when I met the governor of Oyo State, he was then the governor-elect, he's won his election. I went to give a talk, section on legal practice in Akure. And I came down the podium and saw this man walking. I remember, I was rooting for this guy during the debates. And I went over, he was sitting with one of my schoolmates, the governor of Ondo State. I went to University of Ife, he went to University of Ife. So I told him, I said, Ekiti, this guy doesn't know me and he's coming in as the governor of my state. And they told him, he said, how can you not know one of your illustrious sons? That's how I put it. So we shook hands and we left. A week or two thereafter, the governor gave me a call, came to my house and convinced me, because I'm not into politics. I work as a political reformer without getting into appointee position. So I do reforms through law and development, formulating legal principles and ideas that will transform sectors in the various areas of our law. So when he came, apparently he had read my inaugural lecture in the university that was titled, Nigeria, What Manner of Federation is This? And he was quite impressed by my federalist, postulations there, that if we could really, I don't look like using the word restructure, I call it federalist rebalancing. If we can rebalance this unhinged, federal system that we practice. So he said, come and put your money where your mouth is. And I became part of his team as the Attorney General. And some of us have earned the sobriquet of Polytechnic. We are called technicians working with politicians. It tended to be derogatory, but we take it as compliments because we are standing by principles and we are not falling into the traps and the temptations of political office holding in Nigeria. So with that, looking at law and reform in a transformative governance, we need to understand the correlations between law and transformative governance. Law is normally said to be an instrument for social change as a vehicle for formulating correct normative standards for human behavior and institutional compliance for a determined end and objective. So you find out that law is couched in normative expressions. And you see, the law today may not be the law tomorrow. So we always say that law exists in an ever-changing continuum of framework. So the law as it is today may not be the law as it ought to be. And that connects law with reform. Because reforms is taking the law as it is today to the law as it ought to be. Because the law today may not serve the ends of today's society. And what are the ends of society today in Nigeria, which is the objective of governance? And governance is about development. It's about resource management. It's about leadership. It's about followership. It's about a relationship between those who are gone, those who are alive, and those who are yet to be born. And when people miss that intersections or relationship between those who are living today and those who are coming in the future, they mismanage the resources. And that's why you got the idea of transformative environmental governance. In the way and manner the environment has been mismanaged by the world leaders, those who pollute and call themselves advanced nations. Thankfully, they also bear the brunt of climate change in wild, climatic phenomenon like, hurricane and all that. But the people who really suffer it are people in the poor, very poor areas of the world, that like Pakistan, like Nigeria, like Africa, and the rest of them. The same way, when there is no transformative, governance, the weak and vulnerable people in the society suffers from it. So you find out that the biggest challenge in Nigeria is the crisis of mismanagement. And we have what you call existential challenge of poverty. Poverty that is unimaginable. And it is like what the song says, in the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty. In the abundance of resources, this nation is being mismanaged. This nation is so resourceful. I've had the privilege of serving in Oyo State. Oyo State is blessed with solid minerals. But guess what? The government of Oyo State doesn't have access to it. Why? Because of the Minerals Act. The minerals in Oyo State belongs to the federal government. Those who come to mine the oil, the minerals in Oyo State are licensed by the federal government. The Oyo State government does not even have the control of determining how environmental degradation that is going on in the state can be managed for sustainability, because the control for the management of the resources is in the hands of another person. So when we talk about transformative, governance, transformative governance has been defined in various ways. But what it, in essence, it means is that the leadership, both in the executive, the legislature, the judiciary, the organized and informal sector of the society, all come together for purposes of using the resources and the institutions that are available to, achieve the ends of development. In fact, in Nigeria, we have a lot of deficits. We have infrastructural deficits. The roads are not there, water not there, and even when you have certain privileges, like the air travel, it's so poorly managed that nobody has control. You can go to the airport and they can mess up your day. Just day before yesterday, I was to travel from Ibadan to Abuja. And I've laid out my plans. I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do that. I spent over 3.5 hours waiting for my flights. By the time I got to my hotel, I was so hungry at night that I ate and I couldn't do anything. That's the environment we have. And this have to do with technology. It has nothing to do with somebody, just poor human mismanagement. So what are the challenges that we have to transformative, governance? The first problem we have is the problem of agenda setting. Who sets the agenda for reforms? Because we say law is an instrument of social change. There are law reforms that are going on. There are constitutional amendments that are going on, but they are not addressing the issues that will bring about transformation. We have the problem of what we call national question. The national questions are the issues that are unresolved in the existence of this nation in moving forward. So the first question you want to ask, is Nigeria a state, a nation? You can't say Nigeria is a nation state because we see ourselves in the light of our ethnic pluralism. And we see ourselves in the sense of the ethnic pluralism leading to stratification in that society, that even when you touch one ethnic group, you find further stratification. Look at the Yorubas. They'll say you are Oyo, you are Egba, you are Ijebu. All these things that don't mean anything. What any man needs is to be able to exist as a person, And when you take us as a nation, they'll say, oh, you are Igbo. And then, of course, we have the pluralism being further, complicated by religion. So they say, oh, this guy is a Christian, it's a Muslim. One of the biggest debates we are having is not about development, but about the religion of those who have been presented. A Muslim tickets. These are things that shows that we are not ready to move forward. So in agenda setting, you ask yourself, where in our system has the law put the agenda setting? Unfortunately, the Constitution of Nigeria puts the agenda setting in the legislature and the executive. So you have people feeling that cannot take us anywhere, because most times the legislature and the executive, they get to the place where they are by dubious, electioneering processes, where they use money to buy votes and all that. So they are not representative as the Constitution, wants the representation to be. In fact, in the most recent selection process for, elective posts in the 2023 election, you all saw what happened. Those are not the best qualities of Nigeria that want us to leave us, but we are left with an APC and PDP government where money was very, very important in selecting those that will come forward. Interestingly, we also have the movement or revolution in Obi, but that itself is challenged by the constitutional arrangement that we have, because our constitution expects that party politics would determine. In fact, we vote for parties in Nigeria, not for persons. So if somebody wakes up in 2022 to run for office in 2023 and it thinks it's a movement, the question is, do you have presence at the ward level, at various levels to fulfill the constitutional requirement? That is the hurdle that the movement that will be represented will have to hurdle. But the alternative, which people suggest, we have tried it, it's not as if we haven't tried it, is to have a sovereign national conference or political forum. We had it under, we had from 1979 to 1999 before the 1999 constitution. We had the 1989 draft constitution, we had the 1995 draft constitution. Under President Obasanjo, we had the political debate. Under President Jonathan, we have political debate. But what has happened to this? What has happened is that the selective, constitutional amendments that has taken place, particularly under President Buhari, has not gone to address the fundamental issues of Nigeria. They are cosmetic electoral reforms that do not touch, the things that bring transformation in Nigeria. So you still have people talking about restructuring. Why? Because it is true. If you don't restructure, if you don't have transformative constitutional reforms in Nigeria, we're not going to move forward. Because we find out now that over the years, there's been both constitutional and political process that reinforces what we call majoritarian veto. So the majority tribes are disproportionately in control of what you want to do whatsoever. Remember that we started with a balanced regional arrangement, 3 tripods, the North, the South, and the East. But now, in changing anything, you need the majoritarian support in the North. And you see that playing out in the PDP. The Wike agitation is to say, okay, we South lives matter, so to put it. So the South too must have a play in this. And the bottom line of it is that they are not convinced, because the majoritarian veto of both the electoral process and constitutional amendment process means that the North doesn't actually need the South, because majoritarianly, the constitutional arrangement tilts the balance in their favor. And they can, and this was demonstrated by Buhari. The Buhari administration never cared in its appointed process to consult or to satisfy some Southern balancing as required by the Constitution. On the one hand, they will claim, federal character when it comes to educational qualification. But the other hand, in appointments, it doesn't really matter. The South, we have to catch up with the South. So we have all these imbalances in the Nigerian, in looking at this. You now look at what are the other things that have complicated this. Why? The solution to this should be democratic governance. Democratic governance is supposed to be, transformative, but we have been having illiberal democratic governance in Nigeria. Illiberal in the sense that the normative underguiding principles of restraint, of checks and balances, of respect and all that, they are not there, gone with the wind. So what we have is, a rogue kind of autocratic democratic processes that are just ventilating electioneering, time by time electioneering every 4 years to claim that we are within the democratic zone. Now, when you talk about transformative process, you are not talking about legal reforms in the strict legal sense. You are talking about doing what is right. And you are talking about constitutionalism. You are talking about rule of law. And this concept, it has been realized that the conservative interpretation of constitutionalism and rule of law will not work. So there has been a realist movement of accountability, of transparency, of involvement of people, inclusivity, and of course, of balanced, equitable distribution of resources. And these are lacking in the way we run and govern Nigeria. So when we want to do reform and set agenda, where can we be inspired? And for me, it's not very difficult because we have so many, international instruments. We have the United Nations Compact. We have, similar agenda under that talks about transformative governance or transformational governance. We have the African Union instrument, African peer review mechanism. We have ECOWAS, treaty and conventions on good governance and all the likes of this that we can borrow from. We have the African, Commission. We have the ECOWAS court that has been giving us guidance on interpretation and all that. But we have these challenges in the Nigerian transformative, agenda that we can locate in poor leadership. The leadership we have is lacking in vision. And it's just about material gains, not about the welfare of the people. We have political practice without people with political values. We have political parties without democratic values and democratic institutions. Instead of building institutions, we are building persons. So in all the debate that we've been having towards 2023, nobody has come to address the issues. We are so, and it's like the politicians are deliberate. They don't allow us to discuss the issues that will determine who should rule us or whether the person coming is fit. A good example, President Buhari never sat for any debate before he came. So nobody knew the agenda he was coming from. And he came and executed his personal agenda that was ethnocentric, you know. And the same thing we are doing now, we have not had one single debate to determine, okay, who among these people, you know, resonates with what are the values that we want to see in the leadership in this nation in taking forward, you know. And then on top of that, we also have some problems that are militating against governance, which is deliberately being accelerated by one ethnic group or the other, and that is insecurity. In Oyo State, we address that by taking a purposive interpretation to the Constitution that we said that we don't need to wait for people to come and kill us. So even though the federal government and its IGP were telling us we can't have state police, but the Southwest, under the advice of Dawn Commission and the Southwest Security Network, we formulated Amotekun. And I tell you, it's a paradigm shift. They are even copying Amotekun in the North now, you know, because they found out that there must be state action. I can tell you for free that most states finance the policing in the state. The federal police depend on the state for everything. Sometimes, in fact, the first time when I got into government, I was like, so what do they do with all the budget for police? Because in the state will buy the vehicles, will buy the walkie-talkie, buy this, buy. They keep on coming for more. And you are saying that the same state that is financing your federal police cannot set up a police where it will finance itself. The debate we are having now is whether or not you want to put guns in the hands of the the state police established in the South. Meanwhile, the state police established in the North are being allowed to have guns. So you find out that there are certain people whose interest is bigger than the interest of Nigeria. And we need to address that, you know. More and more, we need to address the constitutional issues of balancing the states. A lot of powers in the federal government have no business in the federal government. Thankfully, in this last constitutional amendment, there are some, you know, substantive constitutional amendments that will address that. Because, for instance, power. Why should federal government have the monopoly of power when there's no power anywhere? Nigeria has been governing since 1914. When the colonial master was there, we didn't have the problem of power. But from 1966 down to 2022, we've still been producing 5,000 megawatts. Where you are, for instance, in Canada, I'm sure your whole community has more than 10,000 megawatts, you know? So we don't have power to power our economy. That's transformative governance. We need to address genuine problems. Why is it that some people, even as we are talking now, people are still, corruption is the norm. It's the norm in the governance. And people are not formulating, every year when you look at our budget, federal budget, they budget for buying cars every year. If they have been buying cars every year, in fact, they should be selling cars by now. You know, the same budget every year. And there are some people who are there. There are certain incomes that come to the federal that doesn't go into the federal purse. And there are some states that are above the law. We are talking about solid minerals. One state, the gold belongs to federal government. Another state, the gold is kept for the state in Central Bank of Nigeria. So all this incongruity is what is preventing us from having, you know, but the biggest challenge we have with security, we need to address it. And I believe we need to go towards having, you know, a state police that will enable each of the states to take their future in their hand. But more importantly, whether it's the legislature, whether it's something, the Nigerian society, civil society, the apathy is incredible. And it's not far-fetched because the trust deficit in our system is so bad. In fact, it's so bad, I tell you, when we got to Oyo State and we started paying salary on the 25th of every year, people came to tell us that it's not sustainable. In fact, somebody else started my office and said, go and tell the governor, he should be paying us half. You know, can you imagine? You know, the half you are giving us is not enough, so that the money will not get finished. Our people have been so violently, incredibly abused that they are ready to settle for little, you know? And then we tell them this money doesn't belong to the governor. It's the government, is because past government have been stealing the money. And that is what is going on. So much money we are borrowing now. The government of Nigeria has borrowed so much. Ask me, what have they done with that money? You know, we are pursuing personal agenda. The president wants a train line from Katsina, where he is from, to Niger Republic, where he comes from. Who was that one serving? You know, these are things that are going on, and we don't talk about them. We just go on social media and talk on things that have no bearing to the moving forward of this nation. Let's set agenda for transformative governance. And there are instruments to guide us. We have AU instrument, we have ECOWAS instrument. The least we can do is to watch for the nation that is Nigeria. You know, for me, born in Ghana, find myself a Nigerian. My song is, I love Nigeria, I no go lie. Now inside them, I go live and die. He push me, I push me, now push, we go push ourselves. That's my conclusion. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Prof. Those are really good thoughts that we have there. And I love how you're talking about governance. You know, the one thing about the law is, even though I'm from a different country, the law is the law, right? And it helps us to be governed and to live in a peaceful society. So I love how you've touched on that and how we can push that agenda for transformative governance, right? So that we can all be living in prosperous and peaceful states. So thank you so much for your Prof. Mrs. Joe, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, just 30 seconds to share your thoughts with me. Like, what did you think about that? What stood out for you in that?
Oh my, it's a lot. I love the song, sir. I think you're going to teach us that song. After this meeting, we're going to connect, and really, you can pass for a Ghanaian. Like, you have the face, really. And no wonder, I was just looking at it, I was like, really? Because I had a teacher then back, or when I was in secondary school, Mr. Bottre is from Ghana, and you really look like him. And thank you so much for this wholesome time. There's been a lot that has been said, Tendai. And one thing, since you gave me 30 seconds, and I'm going to keep to
just
that,
30.
is political parties without democratic parties, like building people. Wow. Like, that can never be overemphasized. We need to build our people in order to build our nation, and really appreciate your presence here today, sir. And we would love to get more of this information. I'm sure we'll have a discussion section later, Tendai, that we can
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. Just to our audience, we are going to give you a platform to share your thoughts too, because I'm sure you're burning with things that you want us to know and that you want everyone else to hear about. So there will be a share your thoughts platform, and that's going to give you room to share your thoughts in 1 minute. So Mrs. Dora, I'm giving everyone else more time than you. So 1 minute to share their thoughts about what they want to do. So the topics we're going to be talking about, they have been posted in the chat. If our support team could just put that up again so that people have a chance to see. So you can just think about it and think about what you want to talk about, what you want to share. We all want to hear from you, right? This is an informative and engaging platform. So now we're going to move on to our next speaker. So back to my co-host and to move things going.
Alrighty, and yes, you're given 1 minute, but I'm also part of the presentation, so I will be sharing that 1 minute as well. So I'm gonna have my 1 minute also, because I have a lot of questions. And now we'll be introducing our next speaker. I don't know if the tech team can get the slide on. Yes, so this is our Royal Majesty. Royal Majesty. It's an honor to introduce you today, ma'am, and that's Barrister Aderonke Agunbiade-Akin, and she's currently the Regent in Osi-Ekiti, Nigeria, and that's also where she's my Regent as well, because by marriage I'm also from Osi-Ekiti, and she's born in Grimsby, England. Barrister Agunbiade hails from a royal family with a knack of excellence. She's coded in both Nigeria and the United Kingdom and has since imprinted a mark on the international business scene. A master graduate of both Middlesex University and Open University for Business IT and Project Management. She is a principal consultant of Digital Fabrique Development Limited and a partner/founder of Focus Business Strategy Limited, both in the UK. She rose from the middle to the top management position at Shell UK during her prestigious career. Her development prowess and the drive has since moved the Osi-Ekiti community into greater prominence while mobilizing internal effort in an arguably unprecedented manner towards community development. She fills the stool of her late father and keeps the banner flying. Our Royal Majesty, Barrister Aderonke Agunbiade-Akin, will be speaking on the topic, away from home, but for home. So think about that. You're welcome, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can.
Right, brilliant. And I believe somebody's got my presentation, possibly the convener, which I sent earlier today. Have you got it, Rotimi? That's okay, good start. I'll just like to say happy Independence Day to all of us. We've heard so much about Nigeria. We still love it. We have a lot of work to do. A huge thank you to Rotimi, Oluwatoyibo, and all the organizers. It's a fantastic effort, you know, and I appreciate the fact that we've just got to start from somewhere. I will tell you the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm tired of the demarketing of the country Nigeria. So we need to do a lot more to build it. So really grateful for the platform just to share my thoughts. And what a fantastic topic I've been given, away from home and for home. So thank you to all the previous presenters from yesterday and today. And actually everybody taking time to participate, because I know Arsenal are playing this afternoon. It's probably one of the reasons you haven't got that many people here, is all my people support Arsenal. So I've been told, oh, right, we're watching the game, right? So, but it's all good. It's brilliant. This has been recorded and can be shared. So just really looking into the topic that I've been given, I have a very high suspicion as to why I've been given this topic, away from home, but for home. And I think, you know, obviously it's got to do with my background. I'm sure people look at me and say, right, born abroad, I've spent, you know, I've spent more of my time abroad than I've spent in Nigeria. But when I make that switch back home, you know, you'd never know, you've never know I've ever stepped outside of the country before. So, but my background is unique, and that's because I say so. But what is not so unique is nowadays, if you look at my visual, we all have a base somewhere, but there's a lot of migration, there's a lot of movement in and out of Africa, within Africa, out of Africa, to anywhere in the world. And I decided to just put this visual up there to emphasize the fact that it actually doesn't matter where you make your home. You know, you have a base. So anywhere in the globe you decide to situate yourself, as long as you come from somewhere, that is your home. So it's important that you could be home from home. In our case, you know, today is Independence Day, and, you know, this arranging all this talks, etc., coincides very well with 62 years of being independent. oh yes, we have our challenges, etc. But most of this is focused on the fact that people are, we've all migrated away from home, a lot of us, and we need to think about what it means to be away from home, but for home. So just a mention, if I'm happy for this to be left here, but we can move to the next slide, which just has some of the points that I wish to cover. But from a background perspective, when you think about it, we move. And I was very happy to hear Mr. Rotimi, Morohunfola, mention the fact that what you've got to do to build your global profile. The fact that what still stands out is, yes, you can prosper in your home base, you can prosper in Nigeria, even though you've got this Japa, which everyone keeps talking about, has been happening for ages. It just feels like it's a lot worse now, simply because of the situation that Mr. Oyelowo talked through, a lot of the issues. Because it's happening, people feel the need to now move so that they can prosper and they can feel safe, etc. But it's also natural to also want to move because we're natural explorers. Whatever people say, you wish to explore, you wish to expand. If the environment you find yourself in doesn't allow you to do that, and then the next natural inclination is to think about, right, where do I go? We've got geographical demarcations and everything, but the world belongs to all of us, white, black, wherever you find yourself, you make it a home, you feel comfortable. So that's the reason we move. It's as natural as night and day. And when we do move, what are we looking for? And what I want to bring home out of this is, when we do move, what are we looking for? If you've studied psychology or you understand the hierarchy of needs, there's a reason why we move, and it's pretty much around the three things which I've listed here. You've got the physiological, so that tends to be around, what you eat, what you drink, your shelter, your rest, and a few other things which are classed as basic needs. Right, so we've got that physiological need, but we've also then got what we call the psychological needs, which is that feeling of belonging. What is good, and I like the fact that, relating back to yesterday, I was on for over an hour and I heard two of the speakers, Lady Abba and the other lady, Abimbola. I remember her name very well because that's my mother's name. Talking about what it takes, the challenges of settling down in Canada, and how they took the bull by their own, making sure that you make yourself definitely credible. You build into that environment. You don't wait for death to come. You go and grab what you need to survive, and build your profile, and therefore make yourself a credible part of your society. The word I tend to use is, anywhere you find yourself, make sure that you're a paid up member of that society. And that was the point that we take. So a lot of that is that psychological need, the need to belong, that feeling of belonging and love. And it also talks to our esteem as well, the feeling of accomplishment and prestige. Everyone that's been invited here to speak, obviously have dignified themselves in one way or the other in their chosen fields and what they choose to do. I like the word branding. You brand yourself, always make sure you put yourself in a position where people come to you. And that's that feeling of accomplishment, prestige, is all part of our psychological needs. And the most important one is self-actualization. Self-actualization, it just means reaching your potential. But reaching your potential, I will say, is for each and every one of us to determine. It's good if you believe you've reached your potential, or you can reach your potential, or other people can say you've reached your potential. So these are the reasons why, we move. This is the reason why I was born in Grimsby over 50 years ago, because my parents went there to read, to educate themselves, although subsequently went back home. Is the reasons why now in the, the 80s, 90s, the 2000s, a lot of people are moving that had their base at home are moving out because they've got a need primarily to satisfy those three things overall. And when you've done that, you have to ask the question, what next? And I guess that's where I come in and will relate that to myself, my own personal experiences. So yes, you get somewhere. Going back into our background, I would say, when I say our background, so as a Nigerian, most of us we've had very good upbringing in terms of strict parents, in terms of good education, in terms of, all the messages you hear about, you focus, you achieve, you do all those things. When you've done all of that, and we've accomplished all of that, what is the next thing? And this is where it now relates to the circumstances that I find myself in. So I would then make that call that, look, the next thing for me is irrespective of, and I'm focusing on Nigeria now because today's our independence. And it is where I come from. It is where majority of the people that are driving this have come from. We need to remember across the board our culture, our traditions, and our languages, because you've achieved that top, and what's the next thing? So you do need to remember that. And the reason why it's not dissimilar to when somebody is talking to you about what's your global profile, etc. There's an intrinsic part of us that needs to identify with, it's called a cultural identity, but the emphasis I want to make is on identity. When you've satisfied all of those things, you need to have your identity. So what I've noticed in a lot of things that happen, so this comes to the questions I get asked. How did you manage to go back home and then just go and sit on your father's throne, on the throne of your fathers, and you go back into your town, into your village, and you're behaving like normal, like it's just the same. And you don't think about it, but I appreciate the fact that I've been able to do that is simply because I've got a very strong sense of identity. And that identity has been, it's what has kept me going, a strong sense of my culture, of my tradition, of my languages. So we all speak very good English. It's good. It allows you to obviously be able to relate to a high percentage of the people around the world. It's part of our education, just like, English, French, etc., all the major languages you learn. But your particular culture, that thing that makes you you, we need to try and remember it. And I keep emphasizing it because a lot of us, and I won't put myself outside of us, when we get to where we're going, or when we start to build into this new environments that we are, we tend to forget home. For so many reasons, so many valid reasons, I won't lie, because if you're trying to settle down, the last thing you remember is, I want to teach my child how to speak Yoruba. For example, it's you just want them to blend. And unfortunately, some Yorubas, and I will point out to this, I don't want to spoil their accent. So therefore, I don't want them speaking vernacular, whichever way you want to put it. So you've got that bit there. But the longer I've spent now on this earth, etc., I realized that a certain sense of fulfillment also comes from having a very strong identity, right? And that identity has not stopped me from doing all the things that I wish to do, to achieve. So it's a message that I really like to pass on. It's about the value we place on it. So I would ask that we place a good value on our cultures, our tradition, our languages. It's very important. Anywhere around the globe you may choose to call home. It's part of being for home. Let somebody be able to point to you and say, like, X, Y, Z has done so much. Their father's father hailed from X, and see what you've actually brought in. And as hard as it might be to say, what people don't really understand, and I would say this, is you know, no matter how westernized you are, or local to whatever environment you move to, you'd always be treated as an adopter. And I think when you have a strong sense of your identity or your tradition, your culture, it doesn't really matter. So it doesn't play on you as much as if you were trying so hard to belong and you're not just getting it. You would always be seen as an adopter rather than a natural in that environment. So it lessens the pains that you have to go through when you place a good value on your traditions, on your languages, on your culture. It's worth saying, I will say the point that culture is very dynamic. You know, on a daily basis, you know, it's not exactly what my grandparents did or even my mother going down as far as just my mom. We don't necessarily share a view about everything. So culture is dynamic. So, but you roll with it. But there's so much that doesn't change. You know, it doesn't change over the time in the space of time that you've got to spend here. So what I would say is having values over these things just allows one not to be rudderless when you're challenged. And we will face challenges. You know, we face challenges on a day-to-day basis. We face challenges as per what we do at work, you know, what you are on a day-to-day basis, our coloring, etc., whatever environment you wish to place yourself. As Mr. Morohunfola said, he said, you know, one of the things he said is they got into a boardroom and found out he was the only Black person there. I could just imagine him not being a strong person when you come across a situation like that. You know, you probably flounder and there goes the end of your presentation. And then you look more stupid. But because you have a really strong sense of who you are, what you are, and you've built yourself up. So I would not miss out the quality education. I would not miss out the smart, hard work that just makes you that. But overall, an appreciation and a love of your culture, your tradition, your languages, just makes you that confident person. So that is the message. And when I relate it to my own experience, it's, I smile because when I went to Osi-Ekiti to take the stool, because I had such a really good appreciation of who I am, what my background is, I had absolutely no dread, no fear, just an acceptance that yes, my father after 30 years has passed on. It's falling to me to keep things going.
Hello, sir. How are you, sir?
Oh. Okay. Has fallen to me to keep things going. So it's very important that we take pride in our cultural influences, because it really stood out for me when it came to it. And I wanted to really emphasize this as part of, you know, being away from home, but for home. So not everybody will find themselves in the same situation that I find myself in, but it's very similar to wherever you are, right, where you find yourself in. But because your solid grounding comes from everything that is intrinsically you, that cultural identity, it helps to build that confidence. So it's about value, it's about taking pride in our cultural influences and letting it play out for us. And there's one other thing just to mention around cultural identity, why it's critical. Your success, actually, if you have that strong cultural identity, it influences, you know, your interpretation and reaction to the world around you. And that is the most important thing. So if you lack confidence, you will display that in whatever you do. If you are confident, you will find a way to, you know, number one, you'd most likely succeed, very high possibility you'd succeed. But also it allows you to mark out your blind spots. And I can tell you, when I went into the Regency, I had many blind spots, right? And when I say that, a lot of things I did, yes, I speak the language, I'm very close to people, I've had a love of my people, my father, in my heart, in my mind, in how I interacted over a long period of time. But there were some things I didn't know. But the fact that I had that identity allowed me, to work out my blind spots and work out how I would get advice and be wiser in order to be able to negotiate my way through. So hence my point about why we should make sure we build, we should find ourselves in a situation where, our culture, linguistics, the linguistics, the traditions, the culture, we pay very good attention to it and we value it. And I'm not going to talk, in this one, I'm taking out religion and I'm taking out science. That's a huge topic for like another day, but just a focus on those three things, I think is important for us. So, and overall, when you've done these things, when you're the way you are, you are doing okay where you are thinking of home, you imbibe your culture, your tradition, your languages, you're happy with it, what do? The one point I like to make is, you learn to give back. And going by what Professor Oyewo San said, there's a reason why we need to focus on home and give back. So for all of you on here that have moved to Western countries, wherever outside intra-regional, within Africa, that are doing very well, remember home, always give back. There's so many ways to give back. It's not necessarily all financial. Financial is fantastic, I will say, because it can go to so many causes and help so many. But intellectually, we're also well read, that just the right word in the right place helps someone. We support all the NGOs. You just pick something that you support. Even family members, just pulling one person from your family out of poverty makes a huge difference. And please, let's not go to not everybody knows that you're doing them a favor. They don't actually need to know you're doing yourself a favor by helping the world. So I would say, there's so many reasons to make a difference, especially if, you've been able to, you're outside of this. So, and there's so many reasons to do that. There's, that sense of accomplishments, that sense of purpose. It's been said, the more you give back, the healthier you are, because you know that you're helping the community around you. It builds that sense of community, and it could build it where you are, in Canada, in England, in Nigeria, in Osi-Ekiti, wherever, but just give back. And when you give back, I always say that people that give back is because they've got that capacity. They are blessed. They've been given so many. They've been given so many gifts, and giving back is just one way of showing it. So there's so many reasons to give back. It's our 62nd anniversary. Nigeria needs each and every one of us. We make the best of that situation of where we find ourselves. We continue to build, we work hard, and we take the positivity back home. So I will summarize by saying, let's all combine forces to make home a positivity project for all. Whichever way you look at it, home is best. So thank you very much for the time today.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mom. Those are thought-provoking words, and at the same time very inspirational. I've taken a lot from what you've said today, and I'm sure that's the same with the audience. And knowing that there is a reason or why you move out, you're looking for something That is very, very thought-provoking. So you need to know why you actually moved out, why are you in the diaspora? That is important. And you also talked about culture, our culture. Wow, that is so amazing, because that is the value we place on our culture. It is ours, and that is who we are. Everyone came from somewhere. So if you have neglected your culture, or you're trying to behave in another culture, watch out. You need to revisit that. Our culture is very, very important. Understanding who we are, a strong sense of identity. Wow, this is really amazing. We really appreciate you, ma'am. Thank you so much. You said so much here, and I'm sure there'll be questions after that will be taken. And I know if you have any questions, please just keep that rolling. You can put that in the message, or when we get to the discussion phase, you can do that. Over to you now, Tendai, by introducing our next guest. And thank you so much, ma'am. We really appreciate your presence today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And just before we introduce the next guest, I just want to remind everyone again about share your thoughts. So in case you haven't had the chance to go over the topics, I'm just going to quickly say them out for you. So curbing or alarming out of school menace and occultism among the Nigerian children and youth. So that's the first topic. Addressing insurgency and kidnapping. That's the second one. The third one, diasporans' duty to Nigeria. The fourth one, political partnership or participation, why and how. And the fifth one is community development initiatives in developing Nigeria. So those are the topics that are going to be covered, that you're going to get a time to speak on. So if you could prepare your thoughts so that you could share at the end. So up next, we will be introducing our next in the entertainment section. Now we're going to have some music so that we can just lighten up, and be blessed. So our next speaker is, or a musician rather, is going to be Yemi Levite. So Yemi has especially recorded the music for us today so that we can get the top-notch quality of it and really experience the beauty of his work. So thank you for that. And he is a singer-songwriter, worship leader, and an online publicist, and the CEO of Eternal Sound, which is a Christian music company. And he started his music ministry in 2012 as a volunteer online as social media manager with one of Nigeria's profound gospel songwriters and guitar tutor. So he did release his first single, Your Word is True, in April 2021, which has been translated in different languages across the globe. He has written over 500 songs that are yet to be released. And his desire is to see music ministers write spirit-filled songs that bring change and transformation to the body of Christ. He also pioneered a gathering of creatives to do an in-depth study of God's word in 2017 with T.Y. Bello, and he has featured on platforms including Covenant University, Landmark University, and University of Oyo. So I'm just going to give Yemi just a quick 2 minutes. Just tell us where we can find you on social media, your platforms, and also just give a quick hello to everyone before we play your session. Is Yemi there? There we go. Oh, I believe he's muted. Okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everybody. Such a pleasure to be part of this, and I've been quite blessed since the session began. Thank you so much for having me. So you can find my works online. Just search for I Am Yemi Levite on all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You'll be able to find some access to some of my works there. You can also get some of my works too on iTunes and Amazon. Just search with Yemi Levite. It's such a pleasure. And I pray that this short session I was able to, record, blesses everyone. Happy Independence Day once again. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you so much for that, Yemi. So over to the tech team so that you can take us over that.
Good day, everyone. Such a pleasure to be part of the Renaissance Nigerian Network. And I'm proudly excited to be a Nigerian. My name is Oyeyemi Oyeni, known as Yemi Levite, and it's such a good time to share with us about my own short experience as a Nigerian, worship missionary, based here in Nigeria to the nations of the world. So first of all, I'll first talk about 2018, when God inspired me to go through 30 states in Nigeria to be a blessing with worship in homes across this nation. It was such a good time because God literally favored my cause. Starting the journey with just 6,000 before I began. A week before, I just had that amount in my account, and it didn't look like there was any hope of me sailing through the 30 state target I had in mind. But amazing enough, a friend of mine spoke to me about getting international passport just a week before the time I was going to leave Lagos for the first state, which was Kaduna. I remember calling the pastor of the first church in Kaduna to ask him about support. I had just 6,000. I needed 3,500 to join my trip to make it to Kaduna, not even thinking about how I was going to go to the next place. But the pastor replied saying, "We don't raise money for traveling evangelists." And I smiled, asking him, "Sir, am I still ministering on Sunday?" He said, "Yes." "Am I still ministering in the evening of that same Sunday?" He said, "Yes." Apparently, the Sunday service were 3 services in the morning before the evening one. So I just told him that, "Oh, okay, I'm coming, sir." I didn't even argue. Why am I telling this story? Is to let us know that sometimes when you have a word or you have a vision for anywhere, especially Nigeria, it doesn't mean that it won't come to pass. It takes your own determination, regardless any hindrance from anyone or rejection from any man. So that courage was what sailed me through. So I remember after speaking to him, my friend who spoke to me about getting international passports that same week when I just had 6,000. It was so funny. How do you get passports when you don't need a passport to travel? I didn't know that. The immigration officer that would do the passport, it was his house. I would do the 30th state in neighboring state. So it implies that for every vision God has given to you as a person, for your nation or for your family or for a people, it means God already has finished the work before he began. So this morning, I just want us as a people to know this fact that as we celebrate Nigeria's 62nd birthday, independence, is so important to know that your own determination to see it through, to walk through the process of going for what exactly God has spoken to you about, or the vision you have in your heart, is so paramount. And I'm excited to announce that this year, God took me to the 36th state with his favor and provision, supernaturally, with help all around. So I don't know what it is you've received as an instruction. God is waiting for you to take just a step. And right now I'm going to be sharing one of my songs titled "Thank You God," because all we have to say is thank God, because Nigeria is blessed. Regardless what tribe or what nation you're in, Nigeria is so blessed and is waiting for your own contribution to come alive as a nation that is blessed by God. So amazing enough, the song is just to appreciate God for the blessing he's given to us, because what you really don't appreciate cannot bless you. So you've got to really be thankful. I'm grateful for Nigeria. Happy 62nd birthday, Nigeria. God bless you.
All we have to say is thank you, God. All we have to say is thank you, God, for seeing us through the stormy times, for fighting our battles, speaking for us. We are grateful for seeing us through the stormy times, for fighting our battles, speaking for us. We are grateful. All we have to say is thank you, God. All we have to say is thank you, God, for defending our cause, for fighting for us, for defending our cause. We are grateful for defending our cause, for fighting for us, for defending our cause. We are grateful for seeing us through the stormy times, for fighting our battles, speaking for us. We are grateful. All we have to say is thank you, God. seen us through the stormy times, for fighting our battles, speaking for us. We are grateful, we are grateful, we are grateful. Hallelujah.
Thank you, God.
Here I am, whatever. Nigeria, me. The goodness of God is yours. Nigeria, the favor of God is yours. Nigeria, me, here I am, whatever. Nigeria, me. The goodness of God is yours. The favor of God is yours. Here I am, Nigeria, me.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much, Yemi Levite. And coming from a place of gratitude, what more can we say? Nigeria is blessed, and it has made us to see that we can actually look from a place of being grateful to actualizing what we want to see in Nigeria. That is awesome. And I've been on the same platform with Yemi before. Like, that's my first encounter with him. And I'm so proud of what you're doing, brother. You're still keeping the flag flying, and we really appreciate your presence today. Thank you so much. God bless you. We'll be moving next to the next presenter. If we can have the slide, the tech team, so we can introduce our next speaker as we move on in this program. Okay, so we're just waiting. Yeah, can I have it to the next speaker? And I believe that is Mrs. Benedict Eyemooba. Yes, thank you so much. And we'll be having Mrs. Benedict Eyemooba come over and present for us now. She is currently the Trade Commissioner Assistant at Deputy High Commission of Canada to Nigeria. Mrs. Benedicta Eyemooba is a trade commissioner, like I said, and she is the sector lead for the agriculture sector, the fish and seafood sector, wood and forestry sector, and the wine, beer, and spirit sector in Nigeria. In this role, she advises on market strategies and assists Canadian industry clients in developing business partnerships to secure distribution and sales of their products and services in Nigeria. Benedicta has garnished a wealth of experience spanning over 20 years from the classroom to the health sector and the international business space. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Benedicta Eyemooba as she takes on the platform and speaking to us today. Mrs. Benedicta, over to you. Okay. Is she here? Okay. Okay, so she's not here yet. So we're just gonna move to the next speaker. I know is in here. I've seen him already, and that's Professor Godwin Onu. Professor of Political Science from Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Nigeria. And it's a privilege to give my co-host, Tendai. She's from Zimbabwe. We wanted to, she'll be doing this next introduction, and she'll be introducing Professor Godwin Onu. Tendi, over to you.
Thank you so much. So Professor Onu was appointed as a professor in October 2022. He is an accomplished scholar with a track record that is highly commendable. He served as the rector of Federal Polytechnic Oko, where he attracted more than 1 billion Naira for highly developmental project to aid teaching and learning. He does have several publications in both local and international journals, and also has published some books. He has a publication on the Encyclopedia of Digital Governance. Professor Onu is also the first rector to have served 2 tenures at a federal polytechnic in Oko, where he also became the first rector to introduce computer-based test examinations among polytechnics in Nigeria, aimed at arresting indiscipline, enthroning integrity in examinations, and ensuring quick release of results to candidates. He is an astute managerial excellence leader, and he has been to several countries like India, Germany, Israel, and Ireland, and helped with these countries' transformative goals. Professor Onu is also passionate about innovation and development as it relates to personal, institutional, and national development. So he will be speaking to us today on the topic, Rethinking Nigeria's Politics, the indispensable paradigm. So Professor, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know if you are hearing me. The coordinator of this program, Renaissance Nigerian Network, I want to thank you for the invitation to speak at this forum today, which is the first day of October 2022, when Nigeria is celebrating its 62nd independence anniversary. I'm to speak on rethinking Nigeria's polity, an indispensable paradigm. I want to start by saying that I organized what I'm going to say into 3 sections. Where we were before, where are we today, and what constitutes our paradigm shift? Where are we heading to, and what is expected to be done? I just hope that my battery can take me through. The country called Nigeria was put together in the year 1914 by the British colonial administration through amalgamation of the northern and southern protectorates. This was done for political and economic consideration to serve the interests of the colonial masters. Some public commentators called Nigeria a paradox with gross deficit of glues of culture that could create a bond among over 250 ethnic groups and some sense of nationhood. Colonialism created an enigma shrouded in mystery, masquerading as a modern nation state. Chief Obafemi Awolowo, called Nigeria, said that Nigeria is not a nation, that it is a mere geographical expression. By so saying, he meant that there are no Nigerians in the same sense as there are English, Welsh, and French. The word Nigeria, according to him, is a mere distinctive appellation to distinguish those who live within the boundaries of Nigeria and those who do not. The early nationalists who took advantage of their exposition in Europe and North America, upon their return, were armed with Western education and commenced nationalist struggle for the freedom of their people and possible independence. They were more interested in political liberation and with attendant juicy offices for themselves. Their struggles led to the first election of 1922 and consequent constitutional developments that dovetailed into 1960 when it achieved an independent status. In 1963, Nigeria became a republic. The framework was the Independent Constitution of 1960 and that of 1963 that launched Nigeria into a republican status. The preamble to that constitution ushered in a lot of hopes and aspirations. The resolution was to establish the Federal Republic of Nigeria with a view to ensuring the unity of its people and faith in the fatherland. With this framework, it was possible to promote inter-African cooperation and solidarity in order to assure world peace and international understanding, and so as to further the aims of liberty, equality, and justice, both in Nigeria and the world at large. Then came we, the people of Nigeria, by our representatives here in Parliament, and they declared, enact, and gave to ourselves the following constitution. Chapter 1, Section 312 of the Constitution created 4 regions, namely the Northern Region, the Eastern Region, the Western Region, and the Midwest Nigeria. Chapter 3 of that Constitution made provision for the protection of fundamental human rights. These include the right to live in any part of the country, the right to freedom of expression, the right to worship according to one's faith, the right of movement, the right to vote and be voted for, and the other benefits that form the basic tenets of the rule of law and natural justice. Every Nigerian was made the subject of the law. No Nigerian or ethnic group was provided for to be above the law. In 1967, following various levels of ethnic crisis and accompanying violence, the center could no longer hold. The Civil War broke out that lasted from 1967 to 1970. The war ended with a slogan of no victor, no vanquished. It also came with a promise of reconciliation, reconstruction, and rehabilitation. This promise was not an act of magnanimity on the part of the then Nigeria. The Nigerian government was conscious of the claim by the Biafran propaganda machine, the Radio Biafra, that Biafran state had developed a nuclear warhead, which it was prepared to unleash if it was pressed to the wall. The Nigerian government could not verify this claim. Hence, the best option was to end the war through negotiation. The military superintended over the affairs of Nigeria from 1970 to 1979. It introduced a constitution as a framework for the new democratic governance. In 1979, the constitution that formed the basis for a new democratic dispensation was written by the military and imposed on Nigerians. The military dispensation notwithstanding, it still made provisions for the protection of fundamental human rights. To stem the tide of problems that led to the 1966 crisis and consequent civil war, the 1979 Constitution made provision for unity in diversity. Section 14 provided for the reflection of federal character in the allocation of value resources and opportunities. The constitutional framework was to reflect the distinctive desire of the people of Nigeria to promote national unity, foster national loyalty, and give every citizen of Nigeria a sense of belonging to the nation, notwithstanding the diversities of ethnic origin, culture, language, or religion, which may exist and which it is their desire to nourish and harness to the enrichment of Federal Republic of Nigeria, according to Constitution Drafting Committee reports. It was based on this that the 1979 Constitution provided in Section 14, subsection 3, that the composition of government of the Federation or any of its agencies, and the conduct of its affairs shall be carried out in such a manner as to reflect the federal character of Nigeria and the need to promote national unity and also to command national loyalty, thereby ensuring that there shall be no predominance of persons from a few states or from a few ethnic groups or other sectional groups in that government or any of its agencies. The federal character principle was juxtaposed with national character when they are not exactly the same. The most distinguishing feature of this legal framework from the previous ones of 1960 and 1963 was the issue of devolution of powers. While the ones prior to 1979 Constitution were more federal in content and character, the 1979 Constitution and 1999 Constitution were at best unitary frameworks driving a federal society and system. These have created more problems than they were designed to solve. The units that make up the Federal Republic of Nigeria are still tied to the rigid control of the center and unable to exercise a reasonable autonomy as obtainable in other federal systems spotted across the world, and even minimally as contained in the 1960 and 1963 constitutions. Again, the failure of political will by leadership at various stages of Nigeria's development at the center to adhere to the provisions of federal character as provided by the Constitution helped to aggravate the problems of political instability, insecurity, and economic development. Where are we today? The lack of political will to adhere to all these basic principles has led the country into political apocalypse, political tsunami, economic downturn, and what Dino Maleye called recently dreadful congeniality and abnormality. It crippled the giant, according to my teacher, Professor Sagai, that called Nigeria a crippled giant. We are rated by various international barometers as among the worst countries to live in the world, and poverty index as the poverty capital of the world. We are not even in the green books of international human rights groups. We even borrow to fund our national and annual budgets. The failure to adhere to the federal character principle has led to repetition of those events that led to civil war. Prebendalism, a concept used by Richard Joseph to summarize ethnicity, bigotry, marginalization, discrimination, and internal colonialism with its iron fist of oligarchy and master-servant relationship in national affairs. These have taken the center stage in the present-day Nigeria. The consequences are the resurgence of separatist agitations across the country, insecurity manifested in banditry, ethnic associated killings across the country, kidnapping, prostitution, and other indices of a failing state. It has also facilitated the enthronement of mediocrity in public service, channeling of greed towards public offices and poor service delivery, and the infrastructural collapse with gross deficits of ease of doing business. There is exodus of foreign investment, collapse of all sectors of the economy, leading to massive unemployment. The desperation to survive has led to various types of fraudulent activities that are not only physical, but also virtual. Virtual criminality has taken the center stage that even the financial institutions do not trust their encryption. Online businesses and marketing have been infested with fraud, and we are not even sure if 2023 election results will be accurate. For now, there appear to be no solution in sight. While the American could stand up unsupervised to honor the stars and stripes, The Chinese will bow to their national flag and anthem. For Nigeria, it is thumbs down without any emotional attachment. The political class has created a monster that they are unable to control. The health sector is in shambles. Our political elites go to UK and other European countries to take a medication. Education sector collapsed. This is the 7th month that universities are not teaching, that they're on strike, and nothing serious is going on. Bad roads litter the nooks and crannies of the country, and irregular supply of electricity are common across the country. I left my house for the hotel where I'm delivering this lecture because there was no light in my house. No country in the world can develop without sufficient energy supplies that are fundamental to science, technology, and innovation, as well as research and development. Petroleum products are out of reach of ordinary Nigerians. Porous borders with attendant infiltration and insecurity has facilitated the invasion of the country by various armed groups across the Sahel. Aviation sector is struggling to survive, especially private airlines, as the country has no national carrier. Way forward, we provided these narratives to appreciate the background and where we are coming from. Where do we go from there and how? A new paradigm shift from the old political structure to a new one, backed up by a new constitution that we, the people of Nigeria, shall give to ourselves. This new legal framework will ensure a restructuring of Nigerian Federation and its contents. The units that make up Federation should exercise greater autonomy by controlling their resources and pay royalty to the center. Each of the 6 geopolitical zones can create regional development commissions and create regional peculiarities. Education should move from exclusive legislative list to residual legislative list. Energy generation should move from exclusive list to residual list. Aviation should be an entire regional affair. Government should have no business with aviation apart from regulations. Corruption, which is mentioned every day, should be addressed by creating old age security so that public servants will bother less about what happens to them when they retire after serving their country. While the military remains a federal concern, the police should be the affairs of regions to ensure efficient security. The federal government can retain a small number of police as federal police with attendant jurisdiction. Customs and immigration can still be controlled by the center. Maritime and railways can be shifted to a concurrent legislative list. Restructure legislative and executive arm of government. To become a member of National Assembly, the person must have at least a 4th degree or its equivalent. The salary of a legislator should be in accordance with his qualification and in line with civil service counterparts. The president or governor of a state must have at least a 4th degree or its equivalent from recognized institution of higher learning and should be of sound health. Local government should exercise financial autonomy for the state governments. A local government chairman should possess at least a national diploma or national certificate of education. The new paradigm should adopt a full electronic voting process with the necessary encryption that will enable real-time delivery of results. This should be put in place without juxtaposing analog process with digital process. Effort should be made to develop an application that makes it possible for Nigerians to vote in the comfort of their homes using their mobile phones. Electronic voting booths like automatic teller machines can be provided for those who do not have phones to use their smart voter's card to vote. Each voter should be able to see which candidate is leading. Before slotting the card, the fingerprint should come first to avoid double voting. With these in place, perfected by trusted experts, voting can end in real time. It will cut down the cost of logistics, vote snatching, election rigging, cost of providing police and military to monitor elections. International observers should do the job of monitoring elections with their local counterparts. It will save the cost of printing ballot papers and collection of results. Once elections are over, possibly within 2 hours, every voter will know the result. The new paradigm shift will ensure 24 hours of law of energy. No country can develop with power failures. It is not the issue of old or young taking the mantle of leadership. After all, the man leading America is not a young man, and many other countries like that. It doesn't stop him from performing. But the issue of structural shift in paradigm from monolithic economy to a diversified one, from unitary federalism to what has been called in several quarters as true federalism, that will impact structural formations of the Nigerian state. It is a shift in paradigm from old electoral system to a new fully digitalized ones. A new paradigm will help to redesign the model of fighting corruption from media trial to injecting mechanisms that will make corruption unattractive. The new system must tackle the old age security. A civil servant without hope of where to go, what to eat, and take care of his family after retirement disposes himself to dip hand into public purse to save his future. This undermines his oath of office and integrity, but he seems not to have an option. The issue of recycling leadership has been theorized many years ago by co-founders of the Italian School of Elitism. The same is the case with Nigerian elites who replace themselves with their blood relatives and cronies. Nigeria is desperately in need of paradigm shift in ideology of what political offices should be, and betting the new age of Nigerian politicians to focus primarily on development of Nigeria and adding value to socio-economic, political, and developmental facets of the country. That was the views of Governor Rotimi of Ondo State. According to Chinua Achebe in his book, The Trouble with Nigeria, and I quote, "The trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely a failure of leadership. The Nigerian problem is the unwillingness or inability of its leaders to rise to the responsibility, to the challenges of personal example, which are the hallmark of true leadership." And finally, Nigerians have witnessed checkered times and have survived the various governments headed by all types of personalities and tyrants, including desperate tyrants and maximum rulers. Without paradigm shift, we cannot afford to be doing the same things the same way, but expecting a different result. Nigeria has been trapped in the abyss for too long time. Too long. It is time we change the drivers of our polity. Today, Nigeria has become a classical case study in the state failure and dysfunctionality. With the cumulative effects of failure of leadership, the unchecked activities of violence, non-state actors, bandits, terrorists, kidnappers, unknown gunmen, among others, the time for true change that Nigeria and Nigerians desperately yearn for is no other time but now, through a paradigm shift. It is no longer news that old hoarders that for long held this country by the juggers are men and women who are totally bereft of integrity, educational, spiritual, and moral, social acumen. For Nigeria to change its style and parameters for recruitment of its political leadership must change. There is need for a paradigm shift now or never. Thank you for listening.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prof. This is so amazing. And knowing that there is a lot of issues with leadership and the political arena in Nigeria, it's amazing, even for we, this generation, and knowing this is not something that just started, like in the 90s. It's been something that we've been dealing with over and over again. And this is just amazing to know. And Tendai, I know you're not from Nigeria, but there are some things that is said in here that I can actually, is anything that you can relate with, even though, I know you're from Africa, you're from Zimbabwe. Do you have anything to contribute, or is there anything that's, stand out to you with what Prof has just said in this presentation?
Yes, thank you. I really like how he pointed out all the things that needed to be improved, like supply of energy, and how there's an exodus of foreign investments, and the issue of massive unemployment, right? These are day-to-day issues that affect the people at the base, and the people at the root. But I also like how he took it a step further and then mentioned the things that can actually be done to solve these problems. So he didn't just stop at mentioning the problems, but he also brought about solutions which are tangible and things that we can actually put on the table and have them consider. And I think that makes each of us think of what can I do too as an individual to make the situation better? How can I also make an impact, and play a role in making things get better? So thank you so much for that, Prof. And just a quick question for you, Professor. How is it that political figures became so powerful and defiant in silencing the constitutions in Nigeria, do you think?
Let me hear you very well.
So the question posed for you is, how did political figures become so powerful and defiant in silencing the constitutions in Nigeria?
Yeah, there is a root and the military rule. The soldiers took over the country after the Civil War and used their civilian counterparts to govern the country. And when they were living in 1979, they used these their civilian counterparts to draft the constitution that will not only protect them, but also protect their civilian cronies. And you mentioned circulation of elites. And these people who were there, who had the opportunity of working with the army, continue to hold the country at jugas. And they continue to have their roots there and turn themselves into what is popularly known here as godfathers. I don't want to mention names, but you'll find that most of them who are still leading us today are either old generals or those who retired from the army. The former, the man that handed over was a general, and later he became the civilian president. And the present government is also a general. And it's not really easy to disentangle from them without having a new constitution that Nigerians can sit together in a round table and give to themselves, taking care of all their peculiarities, and decide on what mode of government will help Nigeria reap the benefits of diversity. Diversity is not bad. We can have 1 million ethnic groups, but if we can sit together, we can reap the benefits of diversity for the greatness of the country and be able to reposition ourselves to lead Africa and really answer the giant of Africa in all its ramifications.
Wow, thank you so much. And just to let the audience know that we are now in the question and answers section. And if you have any question for any of our amazing speakers today, you can just put that right in the chat and we would take that as soon as possible. A lot has been said today, going from cultural identity, talking about, making yourself important where you are and learning the culture, to remembering that you're from somewhere, giving back to your own country. So a lot has been said today, and I know you also have questions, so please do not hesitate. Whatever questions you have today for any of our amazing guests, they are always ready, and you can just put that in the chat. So while we're waiting for the questions to come in, we also have a question for Professor Oyelowo in the chat. Tenda, do you want to read that for Professor Oyelowo, please?
Yes. So Prof. Onu spoke a little bit about the history of Nigeria and how that played into what it's like today. So going on to the question for Professor Oyelowo is, was there ever evidence of a trajectory of lessons learned and problems addressed in the history of Nigeria? So was there ever an evidence of a trajectory of lessons learned and problems addressed in our history as a country?
You're on mute, sir.
Sorry.
Thank you.
There have been instances, particularly the transition to civilian rule. We can say we had a lot of civil society inputs that precipitated having an end to the Abacha military rule. Also, there have been attempts to address some of our historical problems by having calls for sovereign national conference. But most times the leadership have been clever to sidestep this, because they'll tell you that changes must be within the constitutional framework. And once they tell you changes must be the constitutional framework, then it must be changes that they find acceptable and changes that they will, monitor. To give an example, before President Jonathan's tenure ended, there was the political conference, where a lot of issues relating to problems of Nigeria were addressed. But these were not taken up by the Buhari administration, because they had to go through the National Assembly. And when they get to the National Assembly, the majoritarian process sets in. So the majority will tell you, this is not good for us, so don't let it go through. And then apart from that, whatever the National Assembly passes must go through the state houses of assembly. So issues, I give you a good example of gender issues. It stands to no reason that gender mainstreaming must be constitutionally affirmatized to enable there to be some representation. And what we are talking about is not a quota for women, no, but to acknowledge the disproportionate representation of women in our polity, to bring inclusivity to enable women to have representation. So you can do something that, after all, we do that even for people who are said to be educationally disadvantaged, like what we call the provision in the government for migrants and all that in the education and all that. So if we have to acknowledge, I'm not going to argue about whether there's justification or not, but there have been a lot of research to show that there's disproportionate. And if you look at, for instance, we've never had a female governor, we've never had a female president. If you look at any cabinet, you see that, and in the population, there are more women in Nigeria than men. So bottom line of it is that there must be something wrong that is preventing the women having access. And it's cultural, it's religious, and most people who benefit from it would deny it. If you deal with people who are from the religious north, they will tell you that there's no disadvantage between a man and a woman. But bottom line of it, that there are. Even people police how women dress, but nobody polices how men dress. That these are things that are just mind-boggling. The resources that are dedicated to monitoring how women, apparel they wear, you just wonder whether these men can control themselves. The fact that a woman wears something shouldn't be your business. There should be the respect for the body of the person. So that tells you that, by and large, our reform agenda, lesson learning, has been selective. We have selective process of saying we want to do this, we want to do that. And you can talk yourself purple and blue in your face. Things that are clear that need to be done. For instance, the infrastructure, the military infrastructure that we have has failed us. In peacetime, there are more displaced people in Nigeria than in wartime. I mean, that stands to reason. Why should people be displaced? And then when people are displaced, their land is taken over by people who are foreigners, and nobody is addressing it. So a lot of Nigerians are being displaced from their ancestral lands and homes, and we are creating them as IDP in Nigeria. It's incredible. It boggles anybody's mind. Why should somebody, a Nigerian, be an IDP? Internally displaced from where? You know? So bottom line of it is that we have issues, you know, and then to also veer towards what my learned, my professor colleague said about how the process enables the leadership to, you know, compromise. One of such features is what we call constitutional immunity. Our leaders are constitutionally immune from prosecution, from investigation. So you can only deal with that person after he has left office. This is wrong. I believe that criminal immunity for a person in office is an aberration, because high office means that the person should not commit a crime. So while the person is in the office, he's stealing, he's doing everything, you can't prosecute him. So after he has left office, he wants to prosecute him. We have a saying that when somebody owes a bank 2 million, 10 million, he is a debtor. But when a person owes a bank 10 million, he's a stakeholder. Because his ability or inability to pay the bank, he sits at the negotiating table with the bank and says, this 10 million I pay. But when the person is owing you too well, you can take him to the police and harangue him and all that. That 10 billion, he can destabilize, he can influence, he can do everything. So bottom line is, when you give somebody constitutional immunity to steal, when it comes from the office, out of the office, you cannot prosecute him successfully, because it's going to affect the prosecutorial process. The IPO earns 500,000 naira a month. He comes in, he says, sit down. Where are your children? What's about, have you paid school fees? The man is thinking about school fees, your wife that is sick. Oh, I'll give you land, you know, and all that. Before you know it, the man will sit down to teach him even how to get out of it. You take him to the court. He looks at the judge. He says the judge is about to retire. They send people to the judge about to retire. We'll give you retirement house. The process. So there is constitutional immunity that fuels corruption. And the constitutional immunity that fuels corruption undermines institutional checks and for accountability. So at the end of the day, the people, they become money bags, and money bags can buy the system. We've seen it. In the last election, it was the money bags that bought the system. So as a matter of fact, the system has to be corrected. And as we have said, there are checks that needs to be, and we need to have institutions that are independent to be able to make people accountable. If we don't have that, whatever constitutional provision we have, and I have to say that we are not given the impression that we don't have laws that are being enforced in Nigeria. For instance, the 2022 Electoral Act has addressed a lot of the issues raised by Prof with respect to elections, but you need people to enforce it. And that's why we are seeing now that in the last elections that have been conducted, you can't influence it. Look at what happened in Osun State. A sitting governor was sent out by the people because they didn't like his politics. And he has tried through the courts and all that. But because of the Electoral Act, there is ample evidence to show who won. So there cannot be technical victory where the court is now the one that determines who becomes the governor against the electoral expression of vote for one person. So there are reforms that are going on, and there are some statutory reforms. But you see, when you look at the process that we are challenged in Nigeria, it's not only the politicians, you also have the civil servants. We have to reform the civil service. We have to, because the civil servants, you hear it, the accountant general stole something billions. You ask yourself, why is the system enabling him to steal? Because the civil servants have mastered the process for, perpetrating corruption. And when you take them to court, you could see the man was laughing in court because the money he has stolen, what you think you have recovered is just the tip of the iceberg. Even if you send him back, you send him to jail, it comes out with that money. It's made for life. If he doesn't enjoy it, his children and generation will be praying for him, So bottom line of it is that the system is it has not been seriously, substantively and developmentally reformed. So every reform that we do is like putting new wine in an old wine skin. It's going to pour out. So we have to really bite the bullet. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, Nigeria is at a precipice that if we don't do that, look at the Naira when the government came in, we know where the Naira is. We know where the Naira is now. The price of fuel, we know where it was. Our indebtedness. In fact, by the time Obasanjo was leaving, the administration of Obasanjo, all our indebtedness have been wiped out. But between the reign of the President Goodluck Jonathan and Buhari, we have suffered so much indebtedness. And there is no value correlation with that indebtedness. There is no value in infrastructural development. Yes, we have train working from Ibadan to Lagos. But apart from that, what else? What about power? I spent so much years wanting power because I was involved. I used to attend the monthly power summit under, the minister, former governor of Lagos State, Sheilagh. And it becomes very obvious. We invested in power where the need was not there. So we put a lot of power things in the south. Now, the places where power is needed, you need power in the southwest, you need power in Abuja. And so those IPP projects that were done were wrongly located. The locations were determined by people. I want this one in my village. The same thing now. We are having many federal universities. It's a joke. The federal government cannot pay the salary of professors and all that. So why are you having so many federal universities? You're having federal universities for political reasons. Then even our educational system is bad enough that you are not able to pay. Then you are turning all polytechnics to federal to universities. It doesn't make sense. Those are some of the things that living in Nigeria, it's mind-boggling. We normally say that a problem once known is half solved. Is that also? In Nigeria, once a problem is known, it can never be solved. It might sound cynical, but that's the way we look at it. Because why? In those days, people used to look at ideas. More and more people don't want to listen to people of ideas. They've forgotten that ideas rule the world. The richest people in the whole world at one time, they did not manufacture, they were just ideas. People who, Bezos and the rest of them, they are just ideas people. I tell you, the confidence that I have in Nigeria and the optimism I have is because of what I know. The problems of Nigeria can be easily solved, easily. All it takes is for us to have a period of 10 years of good leadership, sound direction, just like Rwanda. Rwanda had these young people, they killed themselves for years, and then people came and said, no, enough of killing. Now, Rwanda is the most celebrated, advanced, developing country in Africa, barring none, including South Africa and Africa, Ghana, or whatever. Now we talk about Rwanda. The same way we see pockets of hope in Nigeria, in some states. You will see, because people forget that we run a federal system. The federal system is supposed to offer example. Yes, Lagos State is a very good, model that we all look at. Now, in the Southwest, we are going along with what you call harmonization. So we are harmonizing our laws, harmonizing our development. So you can see Ogun State and Lagos State forming, economic relationship. You can see Ogun State and Oyo State forming joint military, security, harmonize. That's where we need to go. If the federal can't offer the solution, let's speak to our people, because There is a saying in our place in Oyo State. They said, Pakpa ofura, Pakpa jono, aja ofura, aja jin. Oleti ofura, ole nioko. If there's no vigilance on our part, and the vigilance has to be to the person who owns the house, we can't continue to point to the federal. So those of you in diaspora, let's focus on developing where we come from. As His Royal Highness said, focus on developing where you come from. If you have any plan that can work, come to us in Oyo State. Go to them in Ekiti State. Go to them in Akwa Ibom. Let there be pockets of light. You know, that's why my own life, I'm always encouraged by the song that directs my life. I said, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Because my little light, if it shines and your little light shines, there will be light. And like the poet said, let there be light, and darkness cannot stand the light. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, sir. We know we can give you the whole day. There's a lot in there, sir. We really, really appreciate you today. And I know we are almost out of time because it's already 1, but in about 10 minutes, we will be out of here. It's just that there are a lot to say, and we cannot but just mention all of this, especially on the day that we are celebrating our dear nation, Nigeria. So Prof, briefly, there's another question for you, and as brief as possible. We just want to know, this is a question that I think we should ask today. And the question is, can any serious change happen in Nigeria outside the political class? Like outside the political class, can we have any other serious change, or we have to change this political class before we can get a change done? Prof, over to you briefly.
Thank you very much. There can always be change. You know, when you talk about change, you talk about developmental change, you talk about transitional change, and you talk about transformative change. Change can happen. We saw the young people, you know, when they decided to challenge the government, and they gathered in Lagos State, gathered all over the place, and they were able to bring about change with our security and all that. So bottom line of it is that Nigeria belongs to all of us. And if we keep on focusing on change on the political class are about maintaining status quo. They are about continue to steal, continue to feather their nest, continue to, you know, do the things that favor them, and do it for their children and for their children even yet unborn. To the extent that even appointment of judges now, you find people who are in top judicial positions believing that because they have gone through it, whether the child is called to be a judge or not, they want to push him to be a judge. So there can be change beyond the political class, particularly in the civil society. You know, we are all part of the civil society. What you are doing now, it's a platform for change, and we must not give up. The bottom line of it is that there must be a chain of reaction, because if the civil society wants to set an agenda, then they must plan it. Change doesn't come by sitting down somewhere and poking at a problem and thinking that problem is going away. So our people must articulate what agenda they want. So like I talk about agenda setting. If you take, for instance, the movie and the music industry, it was young people who came about to say they want to change, you know. And today we can boast of having somebody that won the highest, you know, accolade in the music industry without any help from government. You know, today Nigerian can contest with the whole world and come with the recognition that you have contributed to the music industry globally, you know. And those are some of the things that we have. But in terms of the economic and social and cultural something, we can, you know, be change, you know, catalyst, religious wise and all that. There are things going on if we are able to expose them, you know, the ethnicization of our country to serve one ethnic group. If it's been exposed, you know, people will know that this is what is going on. And killing of people and all that, if been exposed, like we said, once you bring light to darkness, we are becoming change, you know, catalyst. So we shouldn't give up. I mean, if we give up, then of course, we are surrendering to people to do whatever they like with Nigeria. My challenge to each and every one of us is that let your little light shine wherever you are, and I think darkness will retreat. The more darkness retreat, the more light is shed on things, and the more progress we are able to make in our nation, Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Yeah, on mute.
I think you all are on mute. I'm not.
No, not you, sir. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Tendia.
Yes, I was just saying thank you so much. Those were really some insight reviews, and I'm sure each and every one of us has taken something that we're going to go on and think about in the future, you know, to know just exactly how we can have these things actually implemented on the ground, you know, and it does start with each of us. So I do have another question here, and that's for Mr. Rotimi. So the question is it possible to make non-political and is it possible to make non-political and the non-governmental sector so attractive that government becomes less and less attractive for those who pursue wealth and power? So that's for you, Mr. Rotimi.
Morohunfola. So that's for Mr. Rotimi Morohunfola. I know he's still here, and the question is for you, sir. We can have you respond to that question. Okay, Mr. Rotimi Morohunfola, are you there? Okay.
Okay. Actually, there was a mix-up. That question is for Prof. Mr. Morohunfola's question is different.
Oh, yes. Sorry about that. Yes, it's actually, can a pursuit of global sustainability ever affect local commitment and performance? Thank you for that.
Okay, but do we have Mr. Rotimi in here? Mr. Rotimi Morohunfola. Okay. And we can also have the view of the audience, like if you have one or two things to comment about today, we can have that briefly. Like a lot has been said, and I've taken so much from here today. It's not just about the country Nigeria, is about you and me, is about bringing the change, our own pocket of light, is about, you know, recognizing our culture and giving back to where we are from. And it's not just about Nigeria, even wherever we are in the diaspora, we also have to keep shining the light. We need to know why we left the country. And once we achieve, we have to give back to the community or to our nation as well. So a lot has been said. I don't know if there's someone in there that want to like just chip in one or two thoughts before we have the closing remark for today. And that would be great if we can have one person or someone just, you can raise your hand or just put in the chat, whichever is convenient for you. And we can just take your line of thought briefly as we round up today. Yes, hi, Mr. Adewumi Idowu. Yes, you can go ahead and make your comment and your contribution, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I must appreciate all presenters since yesterday. It has been so fantastic. I enjoy every part and every section of the program. Well, in my only two contribution is that there is no way we will believe in a system and we want to make the system to work. And of course, as I'm even commending the organizers of this program, I must say this, that this program is more than this forum where we are now. It's something that look at the caliber of speakers, the quality of the speakers. is something that we have to do something in terms of having a larger platform, probably on our local TV or radio station. And at the same time, we should be able to actually project even what we are doing now. Thank God it's being recorded. We should be able to do something on it on our local station. So Nigeria will be able to know that, fine, this is what is obtainable in abroad, and this is how we can build our own nation, and this is the way forward. Number one thing is that Nigeria needs to believe in the system. What I've been picking since yesterday has to do with volunteering, has to do with the branding, has to do with how you package yourself, and has to do with the political system. And they are pointed so much on leadership. But may I actually drop this, that followers also have a lot of jobs to do. It has shown, analysis has revealed that majority of our followers in this country, or citizens of Nigeria, they don't actually believe in the leaders. They don't believe in the system to work, yet they are still thinking the system is going to work. Thank God we have people in the diaspora, and this program was even organized by people in the diaspora. You know how the system works over there. It takes everybody's effort to fix the system. But Nigerian, the reverse is the case. Nigerian thinks when they put the president there, when they put the governor there, things has been fixed. I was talking to some of my students a few days ago. I told them, I said, look, in Westerns that you are looking at, they make sure that at least their students contribute to their economy. And they make sure that at least you must work for 20 hours per week. I can tell you that 95% of Nigerian students, they are dependent. They're expecting that token from their mom, from their dad, and the rest. And we are still saying the system has to work. So it has to get to a situation whereby, for example, University of Ibadan, we have vacancy for students alone. And it must be University of Ibadan student, fixing probably the security issue of the university, probably fixing the weed issue and other stuff like that. So they can generate more money into the system. What Nigerians, especially the youth, they are in the middle class of the system, what they are doing is virtually next to nothing in terms of contribution to economic development. A lot of things can be done even virtually. IT has made the world easy. I used to tell people some of the differences between the developed and developing is tech. And who owns the tech? Youth. The question is that are Nigerian youth using the tech properly? Some of us have been talking even currently to EFCC, ICPC, Anti-Graft, that these young ones you are picking for cyber crime, cyber fraud, give it to us. We can train them in IT. So they will be able to have a sustainable life than what they are doing. And they will be able to generate, even legal foreign exchange into the country. A lot of online jobs that they can do, instead of being a fraudster and the rest. So Nigerian youth is one of the major headache of this country. Of course, I'm part of the youth. It's when we now start our advocacy in terms of youth must be fully engaged. Sorry, what I read in Genesis 2:10 is that even in Garden of Eden, there are 4 streams of income, of water, sorry. So how come? That means it's only Adam that was in that garden as of that time. So how come that we will have youth? That means Adam was classified as youth at that point because Eve wasn't there. Now, how come that we will not have youth that will be sleeping at home and be expecting money to troop in? and we are talking about the system is coming down, the system is going down. There is nobody that's going to fix this system. It's you and I that will fix it. But I can tell you that majority of our youth, we have a lot of work to do to make sure that this system works properly. That is just the fact. So we should wake up from our slumber and try to do something as regards economic development. Let's make sure that our impact is being felt in this country. We don't just sit down and be expecting bursary from the state government that we don't even give kobo to, bursary from the federal government that we don't give kobo to. But if you actually, if you are productive and actually bringing things on table, there is no way the government will have different skills for us too. Thank you, my own contribution.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adewumi. That is with a lot of passion, and we really appreciate that. And it said a lot in the, yes, you're right. The conversation has just started. This is the starting point. We hope to bring more, and we'll continue on another platform to continue these important issues to ensure that it rings a bell and it resonates with everyone, every Nigeria, both home and abroad. And we hope to continue this on. So because of time, we just have to close it now. It's been an amazing, amazing time. We're sorry we went by 15 minutes, but I hope you will agree with me that every of this second and minute has been vital, and all the information has been one that has to be said today, a day such as this. So we want to appreciate everyone that has stayed with us for the 2 days, that has made contribution. We want to thank our amazing presenters also. I have been so impacted with this presentation. Tenda, I know you've gotten so much from this as well. And I'm just going to invite, now we have Mr. Rotimi. I don't know if we can still take his question, but I'm going to invite my husband, the convener of this program, and he will be able to determine if we can still give time for the question or he will be having the closing remark. Over to you, Rotimi.
Yes, we can ask, we can let Mr. Morohunfola take his question.
Okay. Thank you. And it's just going to be briefly, sir. The question that was directed to you, I'm just going to get that up now. And 1 second. Tendai, do you have the question?
I can help you here. So we're saying that, can a pursuit of global suitability ever affect local commitment and performance?
Yes. Thank you. Briefly,
sir. Can it distract from local commitment and performance? And if it is going to, what do we do?
Okay, I perhaps may not have got the full because I didn't get to know the context. But if I got it correctly, it's about trying to seek a global profile. Does it affect your relevance locally? I would say no, it should not, because seeking for a global profile does not mean you need to necessarily disconnect yourself from where you are. But what do you make of yourself that becomes relevant globally, that becomes relevant to anybody, anywhere in the world, and they want to seek you for an attention of something? So as a matter of fact, your relevance locally, they say charity begins from home. The capacity to actually showcase yourself locally is the beginning of being relevant in a wider scale. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, sir. Jotolu, are you saying something, or should I just go ahead? All right, I'll just go ahead with the closing remarks. Nothing so official. I want to thank God for this opportunity to shine my own little light and the little light of the team. And I have just been wowed since yesterday, where we're flowing with very deep thoughts, conversations that would not end here, conversations that will go beyond here. And by God's grace, there'll be such platforms. I can see that people are so full of energy, divulging so much that we can't just allow to stop now. We need to keep on pushing back every force of darkness in governance, in polity, in education, in health, in social interactions, in all strata of polity and national life. I want to thank sincerely and from the depth of my heart everyone that has been a part of this. I can imagine writing someone and say, come speak, and the person has 2 weeks or even 1 week. Amazing. We didn't do the magic. All of you really made us humbled and very, very proud. Thank you so much, Professor Oyelowo, Oyewo. Thank you so much for your fatherliness. I listened to you for the first time when you had a presentation at Port Harcourt, and I was like, thank God we still have engagements like this in this country. And I was like, one day we are going to connect. And thank you very much, my dear brother from another mother. He's actually my mother's son also, Engineer Aderonke. Totolo, I'm warning you, it's not a mister, it's an engineer. It's not easy to become an engineer. Thank you for making this happen. Thank you for the connection. And thank you for your comments at the end of the program. It shows that you also need to be on the platform. I would see to that. Thanks to Professor Ono. That was deep, deep. I was imagining, do our leaders listen to things? Thank you very much. Royal Highness, Eyemooba, Aderonke, Agunbiade-Akin. That deep thought. Thank you, my elder brother, another mother, Mr. Rotimi Morohunfola. Thank you for your support. And we also say thank you to the Deputy Mayor of St. John's, the city of St. John's. He called me sometime last week and said, look, I'm ready to support your programs. Not even the programs, because she just read the vision. Like she said, look, whatever you're bringing up, I'm ready to support. That's someone who is not a Nigerian. We can't see things that will bring rich value and engagement and disdain it or envy people or like, oh, it's doing its thing. It's our thing. And we need to put our hands there and cause the change, just like we've had from Professor Oyelowo and other people. Grateful to everyone who has made it, the people who have made this work, my darling wife, Modrotolua, Emwesiri, who's been behind everything technical, Tendai, Ruva, my son also, Ini, thank you for that poem. Thank you to Rachel. Rachel did that this morning, what she posted on YouTube and what this morning. Inulua wrote that poem yesterday, and I was like, this is real. And that was the same thing that Professor Oyelowo was saying. Either God is doing something new and that we need to really engage with the world. Thanks to also to our moderators. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it platform today, Area Guari, and also Blessings Mosugu. I also want to appreciate our graphic designer, Joseph Duku, and also the person that designed the video, Tokwe ABA. Thanks to also to the speakers yesterday. We really appreciate you. We believe that we're just starting the conversation, and we hope that you will engage with us to build Nigeria after now. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. There will be renaissance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rotimi, for that awesome closing remark. And we also thank our dear mommy, Dr. Mrs. Foluke Oluwatoyinbo. She's been an amazing support as well. She's here, and we thank her also. Please, could we have everyone put on their camera? I remember when I was growing then, and my mom and my dad, they take us out for maybe weddings and events. There's always the sticker, I was there. I don't know if anyone remember I was there, like souvenirs, so you know you were there. I was there when Taye were Bimbo or when Dash were that. And so just to have a group screenshot, we would appreciate if we can all come on camera, and we're just going to do that as quickly as possible, and we will be out of here as soon as possible. So please, can we have everyone put on their camera? We will really, really, really appreciate that. Okay. Yes, I also want to thank our friend, Miss Lady Albert and Mrs. Ifidon Abimbola. They gave us some books, like they donated for the quiz. We had a quiz session yesterday. It was amazing, and it was all around Nigeria. So we want to thank all of them for the donation as well. And there's a lot that has gone into this presentation, and every one of you matter. We want to thank you too that you're still here. Thank you all, and we can go over and over. The list is numerous, but know that you're all appreciated. And once you're ready now, Tech, you can. Okay, if you're driving, that's okay. We want you to be safe, man, and that's fine. As many as we can get, we would have this picture. So Tech, let us know when you have the picture, please. Okay, that's it. We have the picture rolling. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you. We're sorry again for the time, but we know you've been impacted. We know there's been a lot that has been said today, and you're going out there to make a difference, starting from you. And we really appreciate that. God bless you. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Happy 62nd independence anniversary, and have a great day. Thank you so much. God bless you. Bye now.
Happy independence to everyone, and go out and let your light shine. God bless.
Yes, sir. Let it shine.
In the rain as the clouds go gray, the thunder roars and the earth sings. The season's just beginning. Sunlight it hides as the clouds make way for the pouring of my blessings. I will not be afraid. I see it now, I understand, I know. So I embrace it, dance in the rain. It's for my seed to grow, for every prayer and every seed I've sown. Lord of the harvest knows I'm reaping back 100-fold. The land is green, it's green, oh, oh. The land is green, it's green. Can't you see? The harvest is ready, 'cause the Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me. It's green for me. Standing alone can be a heavy load, but my vows I won't be breaking. Though my heart is aching, I got a word and I won't let go. It's your will I'm seeking, so I keep on believing. I see it now, I understand, I know. So I embrace it, dance. Once again, it's time for me to grow. For every prayer and every tear I've sown, Lord of the harvest knows I'm reaping joy 100-fold. The land is green, it's green, oh, oh. The land is green, it's green. Can't you see? The harvest is ready, 'cause the Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me. I thought it was over, thought you were done with me, but we're just beginning. Whoa, my life is a journey. I will walk with you, I will go where you want me to. Yes, I will go. Come on. what you see.